Chapter 2570. In the end, the clairvoyant master once again launched a large-scale search operation, trying to ferret out the chaotic giant rock. The result was still unsatisfactory. He could not locate the chaotic giant rock at all. If he could locate a plane or a domain, then things would be much easier. If it was the vast starry sky, then it was a completely different concept. The vast starry sky was boundless. Again, no one knew how big the starry sky was. Not even Master Godly Mathematician knew the answer. In this case, it was very difficult to locate the chaotic giant rock. As time went by, countless years ago, the Peak Slaughterer clan swept across the vast starry sky and was almost invincible. In the end, if the 4 Peak clans had not joined forces, the starry sky today would have completely changed. As the Peak Slaughterer clan was severely injured, the Peak Slaughterer clan almost disappeared without a trace and had not appeared for so many years. But the result? Just 3 years ago, the Peak Slaughterer clan that had disappeared suddenly reappeared in the vast starry sky. What did this mean? If the Peak Slaughterer clan appeared so openly in the past, it would definitely be destroyed by the 4 Peak clans. But the situation now was completely different. For so many years, the 4 Peak clans no longer hated the Peak Slaughterer clan so much. It was because of this that the Peak Slaughterer clan dared to appear openly. However, if the Peak Slaughterer clan was still the same as before, then the result would be the same. There was no need to elaborate on the strength of the Pinnacle Massacre clan. The biggest reason why the 4 Pinnacle clans did not dare to casually make a move was because of a piece of news from the Pinnacle Massacre clan. The clan leader of the Pinnacle Massacre clan, Zhou Dian, had successfully broken through to the half-step Starry Sky ruler realm. What did this mean? The half-step Starry Sky Dominator was already standing at the true peak of martial arts. Unless the Starry Sky Dominator came, the half-step Starry Sky Dominator was truly invincible. The 6 Peak clans were the Peak Human clan, the Peak Dragon clan, the Peak Underworld clan, the Peak Mouse clan, the Peak Slaughterer clan, and the Peak Mysterious clan. The Peak Mysterious clan had always been elusive and basically did not show up in the vast starry sky. So many people had forgotten the existence of the Peak Mysterious clan. Among the remaining 5 Peak clans, if it were countless years ago, there was no doubt that the Peak Slaughterer clan would be the strongest. But now, the situation was completely different. Among the 5 Pinnacle races, the first was no longer the Pinnacle Slaughter race, but the Pinnacle Human race. Strictly speaking, it should be the 9 Pinnacle Starry Sky Empires of the Pinnacle Human race. Ever since the suppression of the Pinnacle Massacre clan, the 9 great Starry Sky Empires had been established one after another, and each of them had a half-step Starry Sky ruler. Since then, the Peak Human race had a total of 9 half-step Starry Sky rulers. They could contend against the other 5 Peak races. However, the 9 great Starry Sky Empires had always been fighting openly and secretly. Otherwise, the Peak Human race would have already destroyed the other Peak races and ruled the vast starry sky. Zhou Dian and Zhou Feng also spread the news about Longao. Longao's counterattack and rise caused a sensation in the vast starry sky for a while. However, as time passed, people gradually forgot about it. Right now, there were only 2 things that everyone was most concerned about. The first thing was the white-robed girl. Not only was she the astral ruler, but she had also defeated Master God Diviner with a single move. It was obvious who she was. Furthermore, she was unconscious, which made it the perfect time to control her. The second thing was the chaotic Great Rock. For so many years, Master God Diviner and the others had not chosen to give up. With the rise of the Pinnacle Massacre clan, the Pinnacle Dragon clan and the Pinnacle Mouse clan had also risen one after another. Soaring Dragon Realm. 7th brother, someone is looking for you. Someone is looking for me? Hearing Long Ying's words, Longao was very surprised. Because the Soaring Dragon Realm where he was located was very well hidden. Not to mention others, even Master God Diviner could not lock onto his location. Who could it be? Big brother, do you know who it is? It's a young girl, very beautiful. He said she's your confidant. Confidant? Hearing his big brother's description, Longao instantly knew who the young girl his big brother was talking about was. If he was not mistaken, the person who came to look for him this time was none other than Yun Qian, who had dual cultivated with him before. Longao already understood what was going on. If it was someone else, it would definitely be impossible to lock onto his location. Only Yun Qian was able to do so because he and Yun Qian had dual cultivated a mysterious skill. Relying on this skill, Yun Qian was able to lock onto his location. Just as Longao had guessed, the person who came to look for him this time was Yun Qian. In the main hall, only Longao and Yun Qian were present. As for Long Ying, she did not come in either. Longao, I believe you know how I locked onto your location. But don't worry, although the dual cultivation helped me, but after a while, even I, including you, would not be able to lock onto our positions. The reason I was able to lock onto your location this time was mainly because my father helped me to lock onto your realm. That's how I found you. There was no expression on his face, but his heart was shocked to the extreme. Even Master God Diviner could not lock onto his realm, but Yun Qian's father, Yun Lu, was able to do so. What did this mean? It was very frightening. Fortunately, he and Yun Lu were not enemies. If they were enemies, Yun Lu would be able to lock onto his realm, and he would be in a passive position. Until now, he still did not know how Yun Lu did it. As if she could guess what Longao was thinking, Yun Qian smiled and said, Longao, you can rest assured. With me around, my father will not be your enemy. I came to look for you this time because I have something to tell you. Longao did not continue to dwell on this issue. Whether it was a blessing or a curse, he could not avoid it. He asked, What is it? Longao had a good impression of Yun Qian. Otherwise, he would not have agreed to dual cultivate with her. Unknowingly, the relationship between the two of them would be much closer. This was because the skill they cultivated was very weak in a one-on-one fight. It was almost negligible. However, if they were to work together, then it would be two completely different concepts. They were not on the same level. Longao, I came here this time mainly because my father asked me to bring you a message. Seeing Yun Qian's grave expression, Longao muttered in his heart. He could not guess what message Yun Lu had asked Yun Qian to bring him. Was it good or bad? Please speak. Yun Qian said helplessly, My father asked me to tell you that it will not be long before Master God Diviner joins hands with other rulers of the starry sky to deal with you. He asked you to be careful. If you are willing, he is willing to ally with you. Chapter 2571. What did Yun Lu mean by that? Longao didn't know, but he knew very well that Yun Lu wouldn't do this without full confidence. However, he couldn't figure it out. Based on the current situation, Master Godly Mathematician couldn't possibly do anything to him. Yun Qian, where is your father now? I don't know. Longao knew that Yun Qian wouldn't lie to him. In the vast universe, among the 6 peak races, the peak mystic race was the most mysterious. Even Master Godly Mathematician and the other rulers didn't know the origin of the peak mystic race. He was very curious. Should he ask? Longao, my father has always been a divine strategist. He has never been wrong about anything. At this point, Yun Qian did not continue, but the meaning of her words was very clear. Longao wasn't a fool. He knew what Yun Qian meant. He was helpless. I understand. I still have other things to do. I'll take my leave first. You must be careful. Longao sent Yun Qian off. He sat alone in the soaring dragon empire, his expression solemn. If what Yun Lu said was true, then this matter was really troublesome. Was it true or false? Tianwu Continent. Outer Sea, Crystal Palace. Father, did you need me for something? Yes. I didn't want to deal with Longao so early. After all, I calculated that Longao was a variable in the vast universe. Perhaps he could help me control the primal chaos energy in the primal chaos stone tablet. However, I didn't expect that Longao would be the opposite of what I calculated. Perhaps in a situation where he can't help me, he might even stop me. Yudugu didn't say anything, but he already knew what had happened. It seemed that his father had calculated something again. Or perhaps he had discovered something. According to my calculation and my guess, if there is no accident, the matter of the chaotic giant rock this time must be related to Longao. At the beginning, Master Godly Mathematician had only been suspicious. He hadn't wanted to deal with Longao at that time, so he hadn't acted. But now the situation was completely different. After so many years, the more Master Godly Mathematician thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. For countless years, nothing had ever happened when he sealed the chaotic giant Pring. Only this time, when Longao entered the seal, the chaotic giant Pring broke out of the seal. He would never believe that this had nothing to do with Longao. Father, are you saying that Longao has always been against you? Unbelievable. Yudugu knew better than anyone else what kind of existence his father was. Even if Longao's talent was unrivaled, before he became a ruler of the starry sky, there was no way he could be his father's opponent. Becoming his father's enemy was nothing short of suicide. Not to mention Yudugu, even the marvelous mathematician didn't quite believe it. However, the truth was already in front of his eyes, and he had no choice but to believe it. Longao is a variable that I can't control, so I have to get rid of him as soon as possible. Otherwise, if this variable continues to advance, even I won't be able to control it. It was a bit of nonsense. Yudugu didn't seem to care. Father, you worry too much. You said before that as long as Longao can't become a ruler of the starry sky, then we have nothing to worry about. As long as we can control Longao's consumption of the primal chaos tablets, then we can sit back and relax. How could the marvelous mathematician not know what his son was thinking? He was helpless. Dugu, before, I thought things were too simple. I thought that in the vast universe, no one could escape my grasp. Now it seems that this Longao really is a variable. Yudugu was a bit dumbfounded. He had never imagined that his father would change so much. Could Longao really be such a variable? He chose to believe his father, because he knew exactly what his father's Tao of divine divination meant. It seemed that things were really troublesome. Otherwise, his father wouldn't be like this. Right now, there is only one thing I'm worried about. In the primal chaos plane, Longao obtained 2 primal chaos tablets. He said that the primal chaos tablets left on their own. What if Longao still has the primal chaos tablets and has the help of the primal chaos rock? At this point, the marvelous mathematician didn't say anything else. He had already thought of the consequences, and it was a bit frightening. If that was really the case, then even he would be helpless. Yudugu was completely shocked, because he finally understood what his father was worried about. There was no need to mention Longao's talent and potential. If what his father said was true, Longao would devour the primal chaos tablet. With the help of the primal chaos rock, Longao would be able to control the primal chaos power. Then, even his father would not be a match for Longao. It was terrifying. If that were the case, then the only way was to kill Longao before Longao became the ruler of the starry sky. That way, they could cut the weeds and eliminate the root. Dugu, this time we have to succeed. We can't let Longao escape. If we succeed, not only will we be able to erode the power of the primal chaos rock, but we'll also be able to learn all of Longao's secrets, including the ability to shatter the starry sky. The ability to shatter the starry sky was what the marvelous mathematician wanted. If he could truly control the power of primal chaos, then even if he encountered a ruler of the starry sky, he wouldn't have to fear him. In fact, He might even be able to kill the white-robed girl. The marvelous mathematician didn't continue to lock onto the white-robed girl and the primal chaos rock. His top priority right now was to deal with Longao. He knew that locking onto Longao was the same as locking onto the primal chaos rock. That way, he wouldn't have to waste any more effort. As for the white-robed girl, given the current situation, it would be impossible to lock onto her. Master God Diviner didn't make a move on his own. Instead, he summoned the 9 half-step rulers of the Starry Sky Empires. His intention was simple. No matter what happened, they had to succeed in a single strike. They couldn't give Longao the slightest chance to escape. As for Longao's heaven-defying Starry Sky God item, Master God Diviner didn't care about it at all. Although Longao might be able to evade other people, he might not be able to evade a ruler of the Starry Sky. Master God Diviner was just worried that Longao might have other tricks up his sleeve. Once he left, he would be prepared, and it would be difficult to kill Longao again. Master God Diviner was just worried that Longao would be fine. With the help of the Primal Chaos Rock, not only had the Longao become a ruler of the Starry Sky, but he had also mastered the power of Primal Chaos in the Primal Chaos Steels. Chapter 2572. After Yun Xian had left, Longao had been feeling uneasy. Longao had always believed in his intuition, especially Yun Lu, who would not say such things for no reason. If it was someone else, it would be fine. The only exception was Master God Diviner. If Master God Diviner really did make a move against him, then he would be in big trouble. It was still the same sentence. If it was just himself, Longao was not worried at all because he had the Chaos Palace. Not to mention ordinary people, even the divine mathematician might not be able to lock onto the location of the Chaos Palace. Longao had full confidence in the Chaos Palace. What Longao was really worried about was not himself, but the family behind him. If the family's plane was locked onto by the divine mathematician, then the consequences would be obvious. Whether it was true or not, he did not know. At this moment, Xilin's figure suddenly appeared. Looking at the solemn Longao, he was very curious. For a few months, Longao had been locked in the main hall. If there was nothing, then it would be unrealistic. Longao, what happened? Longao did not hide much from Xiling and told him about Yun Xian and Yun Lu. Do you believe Yun Lu's words? Did he believe it? Until now, Longao still did not know the origin of Yun Lu. However, he was sure that Yun Lu and Yun Xian's origins were not simple. I believe you have already guessed it. If I didn't believe it, I wouldn't be sitting here. Nodding, Xiling of course knew Longao's concerns. The soaring dragon plane was the biggest problem. Once it was locked onto by the divine mathematician, the result could be imagined. Longao, what are you going to do next? This was the key point. What should he do? Longao's face became more and more solemn. According to Yun Qian, her father, Yun Lu, told him that the divine mathematician and the others would definitely deal with him in less than a year. Calculating the time, he had stayed in this main hall for more than half a year. There was less than half a year left. His time was getting shorter and shorter. The longer he delayed, the more disadvantageous it would be for him and the Empire. The situation now is very dangerous. I have to move everyone in the Empire. Once the divine mathematician has locked onto us, things will be troublesome. Longao, you should know that even if the divine mathematician has not mastered the power of chaos, with his strength, he can still lock onto the position of the Empire. Where can you move in the vast starry sky? How could Longao didn't know what Xiling meant? The more he thought, the more he thought. You should go find him and ask him what you should do. You should go find him and ask him. And ask him. Ask him. Ask him. Ask him. Ask him. Ask him. And not just Longao, even Xiling had similarly guessed that Yun Lu's background was definitely not simple. The divine mathematician was known as the #1 diviner in the vast starry sky. Since Yun Lu could calculate the divine mathematician's movements, it was obvious what this meant. Okay. Based on the current situation, it seemed that this was the only thing he could do. He just hoped that Yun Lu could help him. Otherwise, this matter would be difficult. Longao originally wanted to find Yun Lu and ask him what was going on. He wanted to know why he was so sure that the divine mathematician would deal with him within a year. If this was true, then he would ask Yun Lu what he should do. The news of the divine mathematician's plan to deal with Longao was not spread. Apart from a few people, no one else knew. Again, the divine mathematician wanted to hit the target with one strike. The 9 half-step starry sky rulers had never imagined that the divine mathematician would choose to believe Longao 30 years ago. He would rather die than deal with Longao. After so many years, Longao had never appeared, and the divine mathematician had never mentioned him. They had thought that the matter of the primal chaos rock had nothing to do with Longao. Just as they were about to give up, the divine mathematician suddenly changed his mind and asked the 9 of them to work together to deal with Longao. If this matter were to spread, it would be a great loss of face. A starry sky ruler and 9 half-step starry sky rulers working together to deal with a starry sky immortal? Even they found it hard to believe. But there was no other way. Longao was a bit special. According to the legends, when Longao had left the Martial Heaven continent, he had only been an 8th-rank starry sky cultivator. In just a few hundred years, under the suppression of countless experts, Longao had not fallen at all. Instead, he had risen to his current level. In other words, other than the 10 of them, no one else knew about the matter of dealing with Longao. Whether it was the divine mathematician or the 9 half-step starry sky rulers, none of them were able to lock onto Longao's position. This was the most depressing thing for the 10 of them. The 9 of them were especially shocked. They had never imagined that even the divine mathematician would be unable to lock onto Longao's position. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would have found it hard to believe. The divine mathematician had obtained the divine mathematician primal chaos tablet, which was said to be able to calculate anything. But thinking about it, it made sense. If the divine mathematician could lock onto Longao's position, he wouldn't have needed to find the 9 of them. In the end, the divine mathematician was unable to calculate Longao's position. The Martial Heaven continent, the Outer Sea, the Crystal Palace, the 9 half-step starry sky rulers had gathered. In the vast starry sky, they had no way to lock onto Longao's position. They had to see if the divine mathematician had a way. However, the 9 of them were confident that once they locked onto Longao, Longao would definitely die. The power of the divine mathematician and the 9 of them working together could be imagined. They were more than enough to deal with a mere Longao. Are the 9 of you willing to lend me a hand? We are willing. Not to mention that the 9 of them wanted to kill Longao, the deterrence of the divine mathematician was there. If they dared to disagree, they could imagine what the consequences would be. Even if the divine mathematician couldn't completely destroy them, he could still suppress them. Thus, they would be suppressed for countless years, or even be sealed. No matter which one it was, these 9 people didn't want to see it. The 9 of them were very curious. They didn't know what the divine mathematician needed their help with. However, they were certain that the divine mathematician would definitely want to deal with Longao this time. With my power alone, it's very difficult to calculate Longao's position. That's why I need the 9 of you to help me. With the 10 of us working together, we should be able to lock onto Longao's position. Chapter 2573. They couldn't ask for more. The 9 of them couldn't wait for Master Clairvoyant to kill Longao. How could they refuse? In fact, the 9 of them knew very well that if they helped Master Clairvoyant to kill Longao this time, all of Longao's secrets would no longer have anything to do with them. If it were before, the 9 of them would definitely be very unwilling. But now, the situation was completely different. The 9 of them were very wary of Longao's talent and potential. If they allowed him to develop, they believed that it would be difficult for Longao to control him in the future. If Longao suppressed the 9 of them, they wouldn't even have the chance to regret it. Without the slightest hesitation, under the leadership of Master Clairvoyant, the 9 half-step starry sky rulers began to lock onto Longao's position. Soaring Dragon Realm. Longao couldn't think of a good way to deal with Master Clairvoyant and the others. Until now, he still didn't know whether what Yunlu said was true or false. However, it was better to believe it than not. If this was true, then things would be troublesome. In desperation, Longao listened to Xilinx's advice and left the Soaring Dragon Realm, hoping to find Yunlu and ask what was going on. Even if he dual cultivated with Yunqian, he couldn't lock onto Yunqian's position. It was hard to imagine how Yunlu could lock onto his position. He really couldn't figure it out. What should he do? In the vast starry sky, it was really a bit impossible to find Yunlu and Yunqian. In the current situation, he could only rely on luck. If it was just himself, Longao wouldn't have the slightest worry. He had the primal Chaos Palace. Even the starry sky rulers, including Master Clairvoyant, might not be able to lock onto his position. However, he had the whole family behind him. He couldn't be the slightest bit careless. Otherwise, the end result would be unimaginable. Yunlu, where are you? Longao knew very well that since Yunlu could calculate this matter, he must be able to help him. Otherwise, Yunlu wouldn't have to do this. The most important thing now was to find Yunlu's location. Where did Yunlu and Yunqian come from? Until now, Longao still didn't know where Yunlu and Yunqian came from. Even if he wanted to look for them, he had nowhere to go. Longao walked around aimlessly. If he was lucky, he would definitely be able to find Yunlu and Yunqian. If he was unlucky, then no matter how hard he searched, he would not be able to find Yunlu and Yunqian. Time trickled by. A month passed in the blink of an eye. Until now, he still hadn't found the location of Yunlu and Yunqian. If the godly mathematician were to deal with him within a year, then there wouldn't be much time left. The longer he delayed, the more disadvantageous it would be for him. He had to resolve this matter as soon as possible. Longao's heart grew more and more worried. Apart from believing Yunlu's words, he also believed in his intuition. This was because Longao had always believed in his intuition. Once the God Diviner and the 9 of them arrived on the Martial Heaven continent, the starry sky fell silent. It was a little frighteningly calm. Especially now, the matter of the white-robed girl and the primal chaos rock had yet to be resolved, but the godly mathematician seemed to have disappeared. Many people were curious. However, the godly mathematician and the 9 half-step starry sky rulers had always been elusive. How could others see them? This matter had come to an end. Just a month after Longao left the soaring dragon plane, news about Songlin suddenly came from the starry sky. The news spread like wildfire. It was said that the white-robed girl had appeared in the 9th plane, which was the territory of the 9th starry sky. If it were any other time, Longao would definitely go to the 9th plane to find Songlin and find out what was going on. However, the situation was completely different now. After all, even if Songlin was delirious, her strength was still there. She would definitely be fine. However, the family was different. If he couldn't deal with the godly mathematician in the shortest time possible, his family would be in trouble. His family was his bottom line. No matter what happened, no matter what the situation was, he couldn't let anything happen to his family. Thinking of this, even if the vast starry sky had spread the news about the white-robed girl, Longao still continued to look for traces of Yunlu and Yunqian. He didn't go to the 9th plane to find Songlin. He still knew what was more important and what was less important. Longao didn't go to the ninth plane, but it didn't mean that others wouldn't go. Many starry sky cultivators from the surrounding planes were all heading towards the ninth plane. Everyone knew what the white-robed girl meant. Not only was she the starry sky ruler, but she had also defeated the godly mathematician with one move. More importantly, the white-robed girl was delirious. If they could control her, they believed that not only could they obtain the white-robed girl's primal chaos force, but they might also be able to dominate the vast starry sky. Not to mention powerful starry sky cultivators, even first-grade starry sky cultivators would go to the ninth plane to try their luck. After all, controlling the white-robed girl didn't depend on strength, but luck. The red, yellow, and white boundary was ruled by the red, yellow, and white empires. In the vast starry sky, the red, yellow, and white empires were very powerful. They were probably second only to the 9 great starry sky empires. Unknowingly, Longao had already entered the red, yellow, and white boundary. Because he didn't know Yunlu's identity, he didn't know where to start. He could only wander around and try his luck. After Longao entered the red, yellow, and white empires, he didn't want to stay for even half a moment. After all, the vast starry sky was infinitely big. He couldn't stay in one place forever. If that was the case, he would really delay everything. Just as Longao was about to leave the red, yellow, and white empires, the surrounding space was suddenly locked. He was shocked. In an instant, Longao already knew what had happened. He couldn't figure out how the godly mathematician and the 9 people had locked onto his position. Sure enough, the godly mathematician arrived with 9 half-step starry sky rulers at the same time. The 10 of them had smiles on their faces. After the 10 of them joined forces, they finally locked onto Longao's position. Now, with their powerful strength, it would be almost a matter of minutes to kill Longao. "Senior, why are you here?" Longao was well aware in his heart that the divine mathematician had brought 9 people here for what purpose. "Longao, how are you going to explain the chaotic giant rock to me?" It seemed that this matter couldn't be hidden anymore. Longao knew that the godly mathematician wouldn't have done this if he wasn't confident. In fact, Longao had already expected this result. After all, Lin Han and Wang Tao had already made a blood oath. Chapter 2574. In truth, Longao was still very curious. Given the God Diviner's shrewdness, there was no way he would only learn about the primal chaos rock and the primal chaos plane now. There were too many suspicious points. He couldn't figure it out. He didn't continue thinking about it. In any case, it had already happened. "Longao, since you came from the martial heaven continent, I can spare your life," said the God Diviner. Longao didn't say anything. He just looked at the 10 people in front of him. Spare his life? How could the God Diviner let him off so easily? He understood the principle of cutting the weeds and removing the roots to prevent future trouble. He didn't care. The God Diviner was afraid that he wouldn't be able to lock onto Longao's position. Now that Longao was in front of him and the surrounding space had been sealed, it would be harder for him to leave than to ascend to the heavens. "Hand over the primal chaos rock and all your secrets, including the primal chaos steels and shattering the starry sky. If you do, I'll seal you on the martial heaven continent and make you its ruler. How about it? Primal chaos steels? Shattering the starry sky?" The 9 half-step starry sky rulers turned pale with fright when they heard Master Godly Mathematician's words. Everyone knew that. Back then, the primal chaos plane had a total of 12 primal chaos steels. 10 of them had vanished without a trace, while the other 2 had been obtained by Longao. However, according to what Longao had said, the 2 primal chaos steels he had obtained had disappeared on their own. Although no one had believed it at first, the rulers of the starry sky had confirmed that the 2 primal chaos steels in Longao's body had truly vanished. Gradually, people began to believe that the 2 primal chaos steels had vanished from Longao's body. I don't have any primal chaos steels. The God Diviner smiled. Longao, a straightforward person doesn't do underhanded things. Whether or not you obtained the primal chaos steels, you and I both know in our hearts. Even if you didn't devour them, what about your family? He was shocked. Longao had always believed that the God Diviner didn't know that he had obtained 12 primal chaos steels. But now it seemed that the God Diviner knew. If that was the case, wouldn't it mean that the God Diviner knew everything about him? If that was the case, why did the God Diviner feign ignorance? Insidious. Master God Diviner's schemes weren't small, but there was one thing Longao couldn't figure out. If Master God Diviner knew about this, and had endured for so many years, then why didn't he continue to endure? Longao was almost certain that something must have happened. Otherwise, the God Diviner wouldn't have dealt with him so quickly. There were too many mysteries. It seems that whatever I say is useless. If that's the case, then let's fight. Why waste words? Longao's attitude was already there. Whether it was the godly mathematician or the 9 half-step starry sky rulers, they all understood what Longao meant. Longao had tried many times to enter the primal chaos palace. But what was the result? Even if 9 half-step starry sky rulers joined forces, they could still lock down the surrounding space, let alone the godly mathematician. Now that a starry sky ruler and 9 half-step starry sky rulers joined forces to seal the surrounding space, Longao couldn't step into the primal chaos palace. If not for this, Longao wouldn't be so dignified. Ha ha, Longao, do you want to enter the starry sky god artifact? As soon as the God Diviner finished speaking, his figure disappeared. Before Longao could react, the God Diviner had already struck him several times. The God Diviner didn't use his full strength. Otherwise, these consecutive strikes would have killed or seriously injured Longao. Even if Longao had merged with the primal chaos 9-colored lotus and had 9 lives, facing a powerful starry sky powerhouse like the God Diviner, it would be difficult for him to survive. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Longao's face was extremely pale, and his body was on the verge of collapse. If he hadn't merged with the primal chaos 9-colored lotus and his defensive power hadn't improved by leaps and bounds, he would have died by now. Even so, the godly mathematician and the other 9 people couldn't help but be shocked when they saw Longao forcibly resist. Longao, do you know why I didn't kill you before? I'd like to hear the details. Longao was also very curious. He naturally knew why the God Diviner hadn't attacked him for so many years. Since the God Diviner knew that he had devoured the primal chaos tablet, then under normal circumstances, the God Diviner would definitely kill him, especially after what had happened with the primal chaos rock. So why was that? Under normal circumstances, the God Diviner wouldn't have said anything. But now that the situation was set, the God Diviner couldn't help but speak. Longao, I've calculated countless things in my life, including you. I always thought that you were a variable that could help me obtain primal chaos energy. Longao completely believed that. Other than this, he couldn't think of any other reason why the God Diviner would secretly help him on the Martial Heaven continent. Longao still didn't say anything. He just listened. However, I never thought that my calculations would be wrong. You really are a variable, but you are a variable that is hindering me. If it hadn't been for you, the primal chaos rock wouldn't have broken out of the seal. So that's how it was. After listening to the divine mathematician's words, Longao completely understood what was going on. It turned out that the divine mathematician felt that he was becoming more and more unpredictable and could no longer control him. So, in order to avoid any more trouble, he decided to kill him. The God Diviner hadn't been able to control him because he had devoured the primal chaos tablet. With the primal chaos rock's help, not only would he become the ruler of the starry sky, but he would also be able to control primal chaos energy. If that was the case, then even the God Diviner wouldn't be able to suppress him. Longao smiled. From start to finish, he hadn't thought about becoming enemies with the god diviner. However, Longao also knew that given their conflicting interests, it was only a matter of time before they ended up on opposite sides. He just hadn't expected it to happen so suddenly. It seemed that the god diviner hadn't only attacked him because of the primal chaos rock and the primal chaos tablet. There had to be something else that he hadn't said. Longao didn't ask, because the god diviner had probably already said what he wanted to say. There was no need for him to wait until now. He was just curious. Longao's heart was heavy. The divine mathematician's strength was there, plus 9 half-step starry sky rulers. This time, the chances of him leaving this place alive were almost zero. However, he was not willing to die here. The only way was to do everything he could to break the seal and enter the Primal Chaos Hall. As long as he could enter the Primal Chaos Hall, he would be safe. Chapter 2575. Thinking about it was easy, but actually doing it was very difficult. Let alone the god diviner, even if the 9 half-step sovereigns joined forces, he wouldn't be able to break through the spatial lock. The more he fought, the more helpless he felt. If this continued, there would only be one end for him: the 10 of them joining forces to kill him. What should he do? The god diviner didn't want to waste any more words. Originally, he hadn't wanted to kill Longao, cripple his cultivation base, and seal him in the Martial Heaven continent. After all, Longao was a variable. However, the situation was already set in stone. If he didn't kill Longao, he would be a problem once he escaped. Kill. The god diviner didn't attack. Instead, he prepared to guard the rear. The 9 half-step sovereigns charged at Longao at the same time, their speed rising to the limit. 8 half-step starry sky sovereigns came out from 8 different directions. The white crystal eye was watching the overall situation. This time, they couldn't give Longao an opportunity to escape. The 9 people understood that the divine mathematician was watching from the side. If the 9 of them couldn't kill Longao under such circumstances, then they wouldn't be able to explain themselves to the divine mathematician, not to mention losing face. The 9 people's attacks were very fierce. Wave after wave, they were relentless. Let alone the 9 of them joining forces, Longao wouldn't even be a match for any one of them. Holding the primal chaos axe, Longao sneered at the 9 of them attacking him. In any case, things had already come to this point. He could only brace himself and fight. The first of the primal chaos 9 axes, hell devouring. Longao had already gone crazy. He swung his axe dozens of times in every direction. This wasn't an ordinary attack, but a fusion of the primal chaos 9 axes and starry sky mastery. Its power could be imagined. In the face of such a powerful attack, even the half-step sovereigns didn't dare to be careless. The strong fought and the brave won. If it weren't for the difference in their realms, it wouldn't have been easy for the 9 of them to win. The 9 of them looked at each other, seeing the shock in each other's eyes. Even the god diviner hadn't expected Longao's shattering starry sky to have such a qualitative leap. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he would have found it hard to believe. "Continue," said the god diviner indifferently. The 9 of them didn't dare hesitate. Bai Jing, Zhuge Ming, Gongsun He, Xiafeng, Zhou Bolai, Lu Mu, Fang Buping, and Wei Bujing clenched their teeth. They continued to charge toward Longao. They didn't dare. That was because Longao had shattered the starry sky and released a crack in the starry sky. If they were swallowed by it, the consequences would be unimaginable. Once he was forcefully devoured, he would definitely die. Even Master God Diviner would suffer the same fate if he were sucked into a spatial rift. The more Master God Diviner watched, the more delighted he was. Longao's space crack was indeed powerful. Even the divine mathematician couldn't help but want to obtain it. Longao must be killed. It seemed that he had made a wise move this time. The 9 of them were moving faster and faster. In just a few minutes, Longao was beginning to feel like he couldn't hold on. If this continued, he believed that he would be killed by the 9 half-step sovereigns in less than 3 minutes. He was hit continuously. Longao didn't die. The 9 of them were deeply shocked. Given the strength of their attacks, even a peak starry sky immortal wouldn't be able to resist, let alone Longao. However, not only could Longao resist their attacks, but he also didn't die. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it. How did Longao do it? There was only one explanation. Whether it was the 9 people or the divine mathematician, all of them had guessed that Longao not only had a divine tool of space, but also a divine tool of heaven-defying defense. That divine tool had been able to withstand the joint attack of the 9 people. One could imagine how powerful that divine tool of heaven-defying defense was. It would be a lie to say that they didn't feel the slightest bit of greed. The 9 of them didn't choose to give up. After killing Longao, they could ask the God Diviner for a defensive divine artifact. They believed that the God Diviner only wanted the shattered starry sky, the primal chaos steel, and the primal chaos rock. He shouldn't care about the other things. With the God Diviner's strength, how many people could compete with the God Diviner? It was useless. Thinking of this, the 9 of them didn't stop at all. Instead, their attacks became more and more frenzied. Not only that, in order to end the battle quickly, the 9 of them all used the power of secret realms. In this way, even if Longao was protected by the Primal Chaos 9-colored lotus and the Primal Chaos 9 axes, he was still directly attacked by the 9 of them. The Primal Chaos 9-colored lotus, according to Longao's guess, as long as he died 9 times, he would die. But the result? Under the continuous attacks of the 9, he died 9 times in the blink of an eye. However, just when Longao thought he had died, a miracle suddenly happened. The situation suddenly changed. The Primal Chaos 9-colored lotus, under the fierce attacks from the outside, began to slowly rotate, forming an endless cycle. He was overjoyed. Of course, Longao knew what it meant when the Primal Chaos 9-colored lotus formed an endless cycle. It also meant that he had truly achieved immortality. Not to mention the 9 of them, even the God Diviner couldn't really kill him unless the Primal Chaos 9-colored lotus was completely destroyed. However, that was impossible. The more they attacked, the more shocked they became. The 9 of them even began to doubt their own strength, because it was a bit too abnormal. The 9 of them were so powerful, but Longao still didn't die. He was like a cockroach that couldn't be killed. After dozens of minutes of attacks, Longao still didn't fall. However, gradually, Longao's injuries became more and more serious. In this case, even if he didn't die, he would be sealed by the God Diviner and the others. At that time, he would suffer a fate worse than death. If it really came to that, he would rather die than be controlled by the God Diviner and the others. Longao had already thought it through. If he really couldn't do it, he would seal himself. If he couldn't even seal himself, then he would have to kill himself. However, the current situation was a bit special. Even if he wanted to kill himself, it seemed a bit difficult because the Primal Chaos 9-colored lotus had formed an endless cycle. In a situation where he couldn't destroy the Primal Chaos 9-colored lotus, he couldn't die. Longao never thought that this would be the result. Longao was directly hit by the 9 of them. His body flew out like a kite with a broken string. If it had been a moment ago, Longao would have been able to forcibly stop himself. However, as his injuries became more and more serious, he couldn't do anything. Longao's face became more and more pale as he was smashed to the ground. Chapter 2576. He waved his hand. The 9 didn't continue to attack. Instead, they respectfully retreated to the side. Seeing Longao stand up shakily, Master God Diviner smiled and said, "Longao, I want to ask you a question. How did you do it?" Even the 9 were curious. let alone Master God Diviner. They wanted to know the reason. Longao naturally knew what Master God Diviner meant. He sneered. Why should I tell you? Instead of getting angry, Master God Diviner smiled and said, Longao, you should know that the current situation is very unfavorable for you. Even if you don't tell me, I'll make you tell me after I seal you. Master God Diviner wasn't surprised. This was because Longao had already guessed that with the means of the godly mathematician, once he sealed himself, it would not be difficult for him to find out anything. That was what he was most worried about. Seeing Longao remain silent, the 9 smiled. If it weren't for Master God Diviner, the 9 of them would have had a hard time dealing with Longao. It would be a pity for such a monstrous genius to die like this. However, what was done was done. The 9 of them naturally hoped that Longao would die. After all, Longao's talent and potential were terrifying. If he continued to develop, who knew what would happen? If that happens, Longao, don't blame me. Master God Diviner, before I die, there's something I don't understand. Master God Diviner smiled. Master God Diviner smiled and said, Why don't you tell me? Master God Diviner wasn't worried at all. In his opinion, Longao was like a bird startled by the twang of a bow. If Longao could escape, then Master God Diviner would be committing suicide. The marvelous mathematician had full confidence in his ability to lock down space and 9 half-step starry sky dominators. Unless Longao could become a starry sky dominator, it would be almost impossible for him to break through the surrounding space and escape. My guess is that you already knew about the primal chaos plane and the current primal chaos rock. You didn't make a move because I was a variable. I believe you said it was because of me. The marvelous mathematician didn't say anything. Master God Diviner hadn't been willing to make a move on Longao, and hadn't dared to say anything about the Longao. Because of that, Master God Diviner hadn't been willing to take action. This was what Longao was truly curious about. I want to know why you suddenly want to attack me. Master God Diviner didn't make a move. The primordial rock and Master God Diviner still hadn't made a move. Longao couldn't figure out why the divine mathematician had chosen this time to deal with him. He couldn't figure it out. He really couldn't figure it out. In the past, Master God Diviner definitely wouldn't have said anything. But now. He waved his hand. Master God Diviner's meaning was clear. The 9 half-step starry sky rulers all had ugly expressions. They originally thought that after killing Longao, even if they couldn't obtain the primal chaos stone tablet or the shattered starry sky, they could at least obtain the heaven-defying starry sky divine artifact in Longao's hands. Whether it was a space-type starry sky spirit artifact or a defensive starry sky spirit artifact, their power was evident. How could he not leave? The 9 of them naturally knew what it meant if they didn't leave. Farewell. With no other choice, the 9 of them left in a single file. Before long, they were gone without a trace. Unsurprisingly, Longao had already guessed that Master God Diviner would move the 9 of them away. Longao, since you're about to die, I'll tell you the truth. Many thanks. What you just said is true. According to my calculations, you really are a variable, because I can't divine your future at all. Longao didn't say anything. He just listened quietly. However, I'm still prepared to take the risk. That's why, whether it was the Chaos Plane, the Chaos Rock, or even your shattered starry sky, I endured time and time again. I didn't make a move against you. Longao still didn't say anything. He endured the waves of pain in his body until he finally stabilized. You just asked me why I chose to make a move now after enduring for so many years, even ignoring the Chaos Stone Tablet and the Chaos Rock. I'll tell you now. I'm all ears. As he looked at Longao, Master God Diviner couldn't help but sigh. Half a year ago, after hundreds of years of divining, I finally came to a conclusion regarding your divination. So that was how it was. It had only been a matter of time. After all, Master God Diviner had already consumed and fused with the Chaos Stone tablet. Although he hadn't yet mastered the chaos energy within it, his divination abilities were still there. But Longao couldn't figure out what Master God Diviner had divined, and why he was so determined to deal with him. He didn't ask, because he was sure that Master God Diviner would tell him. And so it was. Longao, according to my calculations, I never would have guessed that you would be the bane of my existence. If you don't die now, then in the future, even if I don't die by your hands, I'll probably die because of you. Longao had already figured everything out. Since he had divined this, then let alone Master God Diviner, anyone else would have done the same thing. He wanted to cut the weeds and pull out the roots to prevent future trouble. Longao, I was originally thinking of sealing you in the Martial Heaven continent. That way, I could watch over you at all times, and I wouldn't be afraid of you playing any tricks. But after thinking about it, it's better to cut the weeds and pull out the roots to avoid future trouble. Longao naturally knew that Master God Diviner would cut the weeds and pull out the root. He clenched the primal chaos axe. Even if he was sealed, he had to injure Master God Diviner. Otherwise, he would be letting himself down. How could Master God Diviner not know what Longao was thinking? However, he wasn't worried at all. With his current strength, killing Longao would be a matter of minutes. Otherwise, he wouldn't have let the 9 half-step sovereigns leave. Master God Diviner was very interested in all of Longao's secrets. After all, he had been able to resist the joint attack of 9 half-step sovereigns. He knew that Longao's divine item was heaven-defying. Even Master God Diviner hoped to obtain such a heaven-defying divine item. Time's up. Master God Diviner didn't hesitate. In any case, Longao was fated to die. It was better to die early than later. Ever since he had divined this, Master God Diviner had been uneasy. He wanted to kill Longao immediately, afraid that Longao would become a threat to him in the future. Just as Master God Diviner was about to attack, a terrifying aura descended and enveloped Longao. Ha ha, Master God Diviner, don't you think you're going a bit too far? Author's note: 10 chapters will be released tomorrow, starting at dawn tonight. Chapter 2577. Looking at the 3 people who descended, Longao was also very surprised. The 3 newcomers were none other than Yun Lu and the 2 elders, Yun He and Yun Tian. Master Godly Mathematician's expression was gloomy as he looked at the 3 newcomers. If it had been the old Yun Lu, he wouldn't have cared. However, he was no longer the same as before. No matter what, he'd successfully refined the primal chaos tablet and become a starry sky ruler. Even he wasn't completely certain he could defeat Yun Lu if he forced his way through. He couldn't figure out why Yun Lu had suddenly stepped in to stop him and help Longao. Could it be that this was a variable? The more this was the case, the more worried Master Godly Mathematician became. He knew very well that Longao was too unpredictable. If he allowed Longao to escape, who knew what would happen in the future? Yun Lu, what do you mean by this? Yun Lu didn't seem to care in the slightest. Instead, he smiled. Master Godly Mathematician, little brother Longao and I hit it off at first sight. We can be considered friends, so. Speaking up to this point, Yun Lu did not continue speaking, but the meaning in his words was already very clear. Master Godly Mathematician was no fool. He naturally knew what Yun Lu meant. His expression grew even more unsightly. Yun Lu, you and I have always minded our own business. Why are you siding with this person? Master Godly Mathematician couldn't figure it out. Under normal circumstances, why would someone of Yun Lu's status help a mere starry sky immortal? He was almost certain that Longao and Yun Lu weren't friends of life and death. Master Godly Mathematician. Before Yun Lu could speak, Master Godly Mathematician continued, Yun Lu, Is it worth it to form a grudge with me for a mere Longao? Unless it was absolutely necessary, Master Godly Mathematician hadn't wanted to provoke Yun Lu. But the result? Yun Lu smiled and said, I just said that Longao and I hit it off at first sight. Moreover, he's my son-in-law. Tell me, is it worth it? Longao didn't say anything. Master Godly Mathematician was a bit surprised. He knew Yun Lu had no reason to trick him. No wonder Yun Lu had stepped in to help Longao. Yun Lu, you've only just become a ruler of the starry sky. Do you think you're a match for me? Really? Yun Lu laughed coldly without the slightest trace of fear. Instead, his face was filled with disdain. Right at this moment, the two people behind Yun Lu, Yun He and Yun Tian, suddenly released a terrifying aura that was almost identical to Master God Diviner's and Yun Lu's. What kind of concept was that? Yun He and Yun Tian were also rulers of the universe. What was going on? Even Longao was shocked, as neither the Master Godly Mathematician nor Longao had expected that the two elders behind Yun Lu would be Star Sky rulers. Having three sovereigns of the starry sky meant that Longao and Master God Diviner both understood what it meant. Looking at the three rulers of the starry sky in front of him, the marvelous mathematician's face was extremely gloomy. Yun Lu, you insist on taking action? Master God Diviner, I don't care about the others, but if you want to deal with Longao, the three of us can join forces. Even if we can't kill you, we can seal you or send you into the cycle of reincarnation. You should know what that means. If he was alone, the marvelous mathematician wouldn't be afraid. But with three sovereigns of the starry sky, he would be lying if he said he wasn't afraid. The marvelous mathematician couldn't figure out how Yun He and Yun Tian could refine the chaos steels and become rulers of the universe. Alright, that's what you said. The marvelous mathematician didn't want to stay a moment longer. He immediately turned and left, disappearing without a trace. Yun Lu's intention was actually very simple. In other words, the others, including half-step sovereigns of the starry sky, and even the sovereigns of the starry sky, could deal with Longao as they pleased. The marvelous mathematician left because he knew that there wasn't much point in staying. It would be better to gather the other half-step sovereigns of the starry sky, or even the other sovereigns of the starry sky, to deal with Longao. The sovereigns of the starry sky always kept their word. Since Yun Lu said he wouldn't interfere, he believed Yun Lu wouldn't. Longao, I can only help you suppress the marvelous mathematician. As for the others, you'll have to rely on yourself. As for the reason, I can't say much about it now. Many thanks. Even so, Longao couldn't thank Yun Lu enough. If Yun Lu hadn't suddenly appeared and scared off the marvelous mathematician, he believed he would have been forcibly sealed by the marvelous mathematician. The Chaos Nine-Colored Lotus was already circulating endlessly. Even the marvelous mathematician couldn't kill him. However, under the seal, it was a fate worse than death. Senior Yun. Call me Uncle. Uncle Yun, if I'm not mistaken, the chaos steels you devoured should also be of the marvelous mathematician attribute. Ha ha ha, you're really smart. Ha 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 ha. Yun Lu's words proved that Longao's guess was correct. Without saying anything else, he turned and left with Yun He and Yun Tian. Longao finally breathed a sigh of relief. With Yun Lu's deterrence, he believed the marvelous mathematician wouldn't personally deal with him. In the current situation, the marvelous mathematician was the biggest threat to him. As for Yun Lu, if he hadn't devoured the marvelous mathematician's chaos steels, how could he have calculated that the marvelous mathematician would deal with him within a year? Didn't this mean that Yun Lu's marvelous mathematician Dao was above the marvelous mathematician's? With the marvelous mathematician making a move, Longao was very clear that his troubles would only grow. If he didn't raise his strength as quickly as possible, it wouldn't be good for him in the future. In the Soaring Dragon Empire, there were 15 people who had devoured the Chaos Steels. However, not a single one of them, including the marvelous mathematician and Longchang, had been able to successfully refine the chaos steels and become a starry sky ruler. If someone could become a starry sky ruler, and if there were 2 or more starry sky rulers, then the situation would be reversed. However, to refine the chaos steels and become a starry sky ruler was very difficult. No one knew when the Soaring Dragon Empire's people who had devoured the chaos steels would be able to refine the chaos steels. Longao's injuries were very heavy. He turned and entered the primal chaos palace, preparing to recuperate. The martial heaven continent. In the outer sea, within the crystal palace, the marvelous mathematician's expression was gloomy. To the side, Yidugu didn't dare to ask any questions. He just stood there, trembling. He didn't know why his father and 9 half-step starry sky rulers had come to deal with Longao. Could it be that even his father and 9 half-step starry sky rulers hadn't been able to kill Longao? If that was the case, it was hard to believe. After all, others might not know his father's strength, but how could he not know? Chapter 2578. The news of Master Godly Mathematician and 9 half-step sovereigns besieging Longao hadn't spread in the vast starry sky. About 10 minutes later, one figure after another entered the martial heaven continent and arrived outside the crystal palace in the outer sea. A total of 9 people. These 9 people were none other than the 9 half-step sovereigns from the 9 great starry sky empires. They were Bai Jing, Zhuge Ming, Gongsun He, Xiafeng, Zhou Bolai, Lu Mu, Kong Xiao, Fang Buping, and Wei Bujing. The 9 of them looked at each other and saw deep curiosity in each other's eyes. No matter who it was, they didn't know what had happened. There was no other way. The 9 of them entered the crystal palace in a single file. May I know why the sovereign has summoned the 9 of us? Even now, the 9 of them still didn't know why Master Godly Mathematician had summoned them. The 9 of them looked at Master Godly Mathematician in front of them. His gloomy expression made them even more worried. Was it because of Longao? Under normal circumstances, Longao had been seriously injured. If Master Godly Mathematician had personally attacked, killing Longao should have been a simple matter. Because of this, the 9 of them couldn't believe that Master Godly Mathematician had failed to kill Longao. If they knew, who knew what they would think? Let alone the 9 of them, even Yidugu was curious. He didn't know what had happened to his father. Humph! He snorted coldly. Master Godly Mathematician's voice was extremely cold. I didn't kill Longao. Didn't kill Longao? What did that mean? Could it be that Master Godly Mathematician had sealed Longao? Whether it was the 9 half-step sovereigns or Yidugu, they didn't know what Master Godly Mathematician meant. Longao is gone. Everyone was completely shocked when they heard the divine mathematician's words. They couldn't figure out how Longao was able to escape from the divine mathematician's attack. It was completely inconceivable. Master Godly Mathematician's expression was so cold. It seemed this was true. Father, what's going on? The 9 of them didn't dare to ask. In the end, it was Yidugu who spoke. Master Godly Mathematician was furious, but there was nothing he could do. After all, Yunlu and the other 2 sovereigns were a deterrent. Even if his son successfully became a sovereign, he still wouldn't be a match for Yunlu. As for the other sovereigns of the starry sky, they hated Master Godly Mathematician's Master Godly Mathematician's Master Godly Mathematician was Mathematician as Master Godly Mathematician. Master Godly Mathematician. If he had eliminated Longao earlier, then today's matter would not have happened. Thinking of this, the divine mathematician became more and more regretful. Godly mathematician, S God ancient saint mathematician, godly mathematician, God, T, S godly 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 Aos gods godly heave. The godly mathematician didn't hide much about Yunlu's appearance, so he gave a brief account. After listening, everyone knew what had happened. Yidugu and the 9 half-step sovereigns of the starry sky knew better than anyone else what 3 sovereigns of the starry sky meant. Because of this, the 10 of them had never imagined that Yun Lu, Yun Tian and Yun He were all sovereigns of the starry sky. Even Master Godly Mathematician didn't know about this. If it had been anyone else, it wouldn't have mattered. But with 3 sovereigns of the starry sky, even Master Godly Mathematician couldn't interfere, let alone the 9 of them. The 9 of them had already decided that even if Master Godly Mathematician wasn't happy, the 9 of them would take the risk and refuse. If they were targeted by the 3 sovereigns of the starry sky, they would be in big trouble. Master Godly Mathematician knew what the 9 of them were thinking. 1 against 3, not to mention the 9 of you, even I don't have the confidence to win. Don't worry, the 9 of you, I have already made an agreement with Yun Lu. In the vast starry sky, other than me, Yun Lu and the others will not interfere in the fight against Longao. So that's how it is. The 9 of them finally breathed a sigh of relief. They were afraid of Yun Lu and the other 2, but they didn't care about Longao. As long as they could lock down the space around Longao, killing Longao would be too easy. In an instant, the 9 of them understood what Master Godly Mathematician meant. Sovereign, if we can successfully kill Longao, I hope you will allow us to obtain his 2 starry sky divine artifacts and the primal chaos stone tablet in Longao's body. In the past, the 9 of them wouldn't have dared to make such a request even if they were beaten to death. However, the situation was completely different now. Master Godly Mathematician couldn't take action himself, so he could only rely on the 9 of them. Otherwise, no one in the vast starry sky could do this. How could Master Godly Mathematician not know what the 9 of them were thinking? He sneered inwardly. After he killed Longao, it would be the 9 of them. At that time, he had to rely on the 9 of them, so he couldn't go too far. Okay. The 9 of them turned and left. At this time, Yidugu said, Father, the 9 of them are a bit too much. As everyone knows, Longao's 2 starry sky divine artifacts are very heaven-defying. Waving his hand, the divine mathematician didn't wait for Yidugu to finish speaking. He said, At this time, we still need to rely on 9 people to deal with Longao. I have an agreement with Yun Lu. I can't take action. Otherwise, it will be very troublesome. Father, are we just going to give it to them? Yidugu was very unwilling. Whether it was the primal chaos stone tablet or the 2 starry sky divine artifacts, how could they just let the 9 of them get away so easily? If it weren't for the fact that his father needed to rely on them, he would have already taken action. Master Godly Mathematician was also very angry, but he suddenly smiled and said, When the time comes, we can only seal or suppress the 9 of them. If we can't, we can just send them into the cycle of reincarnation. Yidugu smiled. Of course, he knew that the others might not have the strength, but it didn't mean that his father didn't have the strength. His father was a genuine starry sky ruler. Even so, this matter didn't spread out in the vast starry sky because Master Godly Mathematician and the 9 half-step starry sky rulers couldn't kill Longao. If this matter spread out, whether it was Master Godly Mathematician or the 9 half-step starry sky rulers, they would lose face. The 9 of them returned to their respective starry sky empires and immediately began to make preparations. No matter what, before they wanted to deal with Longao, they first had to locate Longao's location. But until now, they still didn't know where the Soaring Dragon Empire was. It could be said that they wanted to kill Longao, but they were powerless. Chapter 2579 Soaring Dragon Realm. After listening to everything Longao said, Xiling sighed. He was very scared. Fortunately, Yun Lu and the other 2 had arrived in time. Otherwise, the divine mathematician and 9 half-step starry sky rulers would have no problem killing Longao. Longao, even if the divine mathematician and Yun Lu have an agreement that he won't attack you personally, it doesn't mean the divine mathematician won't kill you with a borrowed knife. How could Longao not understand Xilinx's meaning? Because of what happened back then, I believe the other starry sky rulers won't help the divine mathematician. According to my guess, the divine mathematician will ask Bai Jing and the others for help. That should be the case. Xilinx's face was very solemn as he continued. The 9 of them are half-step starry sky rulers. If they join forces, no one in our empire is a match for the 9 of them. He nodded. In the empire, if no one succeeded in becoming a starry sky ruler, or if Miao Ling became a half-step starry sky ruler, it would be very difficult to contend against the 9 great starry sky empires. Xiling, the most important thing now is to break through from the starry sky immortal realm to the limit starry sky immortal realm in the shortest time possible. Longao was full of confidence. If he could smoothly break through from the starry sky immortal realm to the limit starry sky immortal realm, then he wouldn't have to be restrained like before even if he faced the 9 half-step starry sky rulers. He would be in an invincible position. However, it was easy to think about breaking through, but extremely difficult to do in reality. Longao, I know what you mean. If there were other reasons preventing you from breaking through, then I would have a way. However, your constitution is very special. Even I can't do anything about it. The problem of constitution was the most troublesome thing. If it was just an ordinary constitution, then it would be fine. However, Longao's constitution was very special. Otherwise, Longao's cultivation wouldn't have been stuck at the starry sky immortal realm for so many years, unable to break through to the limit starry sky immortal realm. Regarding his own physique, Longao was also extremely helpless. If he couldn't solve the problem of his physique, then breaking through his cultivation would be harder than ascending to the heavens. Seeing that Longao didn't say anything, Xiling said, Longao, if I remember correctly, you once said that if you want to break through your current level, you have to swallow a lot of power, right? That's right. This was what Longao was most troubled by. His physique was too tyrannical. Previously, he didn't feel anything. As long as he continuously devoured the energy within the dragon seal space, he would be able to smoothly break through. Although his physique was tyrannical, it was also thanks to his own physique that he was able to improve so quickly over the years. But now, since his cultivation broke through to the starry sky realm, even if he swallowed a huge amount of power, it would not help. Not to mention other powers, just the mysterious power within the primal chaos palace was not enough. Only God knew how much power was needed to break through from starry sky immortal realm to the limit starry sky immortal realm. It was very depressing. Longao, I know of a place with limitless power. No matter how tyrannical your constitution is, I believe it will be more than enough. What place? Hearing the place Xiling mentioned, Longao was overjoyed and couldn't wait to ask. What about Xiling? He wanted to say something but stopped on second thought. His face was full of helplessness and fear. As soon as he saw the expression on Xiling's face, Longao already knew that the place Xiling was talking about was not simple. If that was not the case, with the relationship between Purple Spirit and himself, she would not have been so hesitant and so solemn. What kind of place was it? The vast starry sky was boundless. In the vast starry sky, there were many places that even the starry sky ruler did not know about, let alone him. There were some places that even the starry sky ruler did not dare to casually step into. Xiling, if you have something to say, just say it. There is no need to hide it. Xiling sighed deeply. Xiling said helplessly, Longao, you know about this place. Not only you and me, but many people know about it. What was going on? Longao was very curious. He did not know what was going on, because in his memory, there did not seem to be such a place with limitless power. Seeing that Longao did not speak, Xiling was also helpless, because she was very clear about the seriousness of the matter. If Longao could not break through his cultivation in a short time, then he would encounter 9 half-step starry sky rulers. He could try his luck once or twice, but what about 3, 4, 5, or 6 times? In the end, Xiling sighed deeply again and said, "This place is not just any place. It is the spring of chaos that the marvelous mathematician took you to." The spring of chaos? Longao was very surprised because he never thought that the place that Violet Spirit spoke of was actually the primal chaos spring that he had gone to back then. For this primal chaos spring, the godly mathematician had put in a lot of effort. But it should be known that, if it weren't for the spring of primal chaos, Master God Diviner wouldn't have allowed the 11 starry sky sovereigns to remain alive. In fact, the spring of primal chaos was the reason why the 11 starry sky sovereigns, including Violet Spirit, had chosen to believe in Master God Diviner. Longao, I believe that you should know more about the spring of chaos than I do. The marvelous mathematician had calculated that as long as we could step into the spring of chaos, we would be able to control the chaotic power in the chaos tablet. But in the end, we found that we could not step into it at all. Otherwise, we, including the marvelous mathematician, would all be killed by the spring of chaos. Longao certainly knew what Xiling had said. The marvelous mathematician had not done anything to him, not only because he was a variable, but also because he hoped that he could help him enter the spring of chaos and obtain the chaotic power. However, man proposes, heaven disposes. Never in his wildest dreams could Master God Diviner have imagined that things would come to this. Otherwise, considering how vicious Master God Diviner was, there was no way Yang Qi would have been able to survive until now. Xiling, there is one thing that I don't understand. Since you can't step into the spring of chaos, what's the use of me going? Could it be that Xiling thought that he could do something that others could not? It seemed a little ridiculous. Longao knew his limits when it came to entering the spring of primal chaos. It was almost impossible for him to step into the spring of primal chaos and devour the power within it. He did not even need to think about it. If that was the case, why did Xiling want him to go to the spring of chaos? It was something that he could not figure out. Chapter 2580. Longao knew that Xiling wouldn't harm him. Xiling definitely had her reasons for doing this. Longao, I didn't tell you to enter the primal chaos spring. I just told you to approach it and see if you can devour the energy outside. So that's how it was. Longao knew what Xiling meant. If he could devour the energy outside the primal chaos spring, it might not be a bad thing. But could he devour it? That might not be the case. The primal chaos spring was definitely a dangerous place. Otherwise, the ruler of the universe wouldn't dare enter. No matter what. With his constitution, if he didn't try, who knew when he would break through to the peak of the starry sky immortal realm? Xiling, I know what to do. Violet Spirit still had a helpless look on her face. Longao, you have to be careful in everything. The primal chaos source is listed as a forbidden area by the divine mathematician. If you are not careful and get locked by him, then the divine mathematician will definitely deal with you. Although the God Diviner and Yunlu had an agreement, if Longao took the initiative to provoke him, it would be a different matter. Once that happened, even Yunlu wouldn't be able to say anything. Regarding this point, Longao was still very clear. Since things were already like this, no matter how difficult or dangerous it was, he had to try. Longao didn't immediately leave. Instead, he stayed and had a good chat with the person who had devoured the primal chaos tablet. Up until now, no one had been able to successfully refine the primal chaos tablet and become the ruler of the universe. It was very depressing. Dozens of days later, Longao left the soaring dragon realm and rushed toward the primal chaos spring that Xiling had mentioned. However, Longao stopped abruptly when he was halfway there. The martial sky continent wasn't the only primal chaos spring. Previously, Xian Tong had taken him to a primal chaos spring. As for that spring, even the god diviner didn't know about it. As for whether he knew about it now, it was still unknown. However, before entering the primal chaos spring, no one seemed to care about it. It was the same as not having it. Rather than taking the risk of entering the martial sky continent, it was better to try the primal chaos spring. Even if you beat the oracle to death, he would never have thought that he would go to the origin of chaos and try to devour the power of the origin of chaos. Longao immediately changed his direction and headed towards the source of chaos. The source of chaos. The surroundings were extremely secluded. There was not a single plane. Under normal circumstances, no one would come here. The source of chaos was like a huge sphere. If there was no light radiating from it, no one would know that it was the source of chaos. Instead, others would think that it was a plane. Longao did not immediately try to devour the power around the spring of chaos. If he was unlucky and suffered a backlash, he wouldn't even have the chance to regret it. He observed for several days. Even so, Longao was still not confident. However, if this continued, it would be better for him to leave because it would be useless for him to stay here. He couldn't wait any longer. This was because the current situation was very disadvantageous to him. The longer he delayed, the more disadvantageous it would be for him. No one knew when the oracle would calculate the location of the soaring dragon plane. The agreement between the oracle and Yunlu was not to deal with him, but it didn't mean that the oracle couldn't deal with the soaring dragon plane. He was less than a meter away from the source of chaos because this was the limit. As for whether he would suffer a backlash or not, he had to continue forward. He took a deep breath. Finally, Longao still took a step forward. As soon as half of his body stepped in, the surrounding power fluctuations began to attack wildly. It was like a sharp sword, mercilessly harvesting the intruder. If it was anyone else, they would have retreated long ago when faced with such a terrifying attack. Only Longao did not retreat. Instead, he continued to move forward. His entire body stepped in. Allowing the surrounding power to attack, Longao forcefully endured. The reason why Longao dared to do so was because he had full confidence in his defense. Moreover, he had the protection of the 9-colored Chaos Lotus. This was the key point. Longao was almost certain that the power outside was not the so-called chaotic force. Otherwise, with his defense, he would not be able to withstand it. Apart from himself, he believed that the Starry Sky Ruler, Half-Step Starry Sky Ruler, and even the Peak Starry Sky Immortal Realm experts could do this. As for whether a Starry Sky Immortal Realm expert could do it, it was unknown. Would it be useful for him to devour this power? As Xiling said, even if it was the periphery of the source of chaos, the power was endless. As long as he didn't feel tired, he could devour as much as he wanted. But would it be useful? Longao did not hesitate and immediately began to devour. His physique was like a small bottle before, but now it had evolved into a big water tank. However, the power required had increased by tens of thousands of times or more. It was hard to imagine how much power he would need to break through to the Peak Starry Sky Immortal Realm. If he wanted to continue to break through, he would not be a small bottle or a water tank, but an endless sea. The more he thought about it, the more depressed he became. He did not know whether his physique was good or bad. Anyway, it was better than bad before, but now it was worse. However, physique was a fact that could not be changed. Since he had such a physique, he could only accept it. Longao's physique seemed to be a bottomless pit. It began to devour the surrounding power crazily. Gradually, Longao became like a whirlpool. Time passed quickly. 3 months passed in the blink of an eye. Under normal circumstances, with Longao's devouring speed, it should be possible for him to break through from Starry Sky Immortal Realm to Starry Sky Immortal Realm. But what was the result? After devouring for 3 months, Longao did not feel the slightest sign of a breakthrough. If he continued to devour at his current speed, he might not be able to break through in 3 years, or even 30,000 years, let alone 3 months. It was not that Longao did not devour enough power, or his devouring speed was not fast enough. The biggest reason was that the power outside the source of chaos was not strong enough. Therefore, no matter how much power Longao's physique devoured, it was useless. After devouring for 3 months, Longao certainly understood the reason behind it. It was useless to continue devouring, so why should he continue to devour? It was better to think of other ways. It was much better than staying here. 3 months later, Longao stopped devouring power and stood outside the source of chaos with a helpless face. Chapter 2581. Should he just give up like this? Longao knew very well that even if he left now, he would not be able to find a better place to devour the power. The vast starry sky could not allow him to devour the power. He could not just go on a killing spree and devour the power of starry sky cultivators. In that case, he could indeed break through in a short time, but he would never do such a thing. Gritting his teeth, nothing ventured, nothing gained, thinking about it. In the end, Longao decided to move forward and see if the power in the primal chaos source could help him break through. If he did that, it would be too dangerous. Even Master Godly Mathematician and the others did not dare to take the risk. If he forced his way in, who knew what would happen? If it were any other time, Longao would not casually enter even if he was beaten to death. After all, there was no need to take such a risk. But now, the situation was completely different. He had completely fallen out with Master Godly Mathematician. Even if Yunlu deterred Master Godly Mathematician from casually attacking him, it did not mean that the 9 half-step Starry Sky rulers would not attack him. It was still the same sentence. If it was just him, it was not important at all. Anyway, he had the Primal Chaos Palace. As long as he was careful and did not get locked on by them, there would not be the slightest problem. The most important problem was his family. Family was Longao's bottom line. He would rather have something happen to him than let anything happen to his family. For his family and for himself, Longao was ready to take the risk. He prepared for a day. A day later, Longao stepped in again, but this time, he was much faster. Anyway, he had already thought about it. If there was a disaster, he could not avoid it. Longao did not enter the center, but he moved 100 meters forward. Longao kept retreating, his face changing. He did not dare to hesitate and immediately turned to leave. After moving 100 meters forward, he had truly entered the range of the primal chaos source. Although he was still in the periphery, he was infinitely close to the inside. Longao could clearly sense that the power around him was definitely the power of primal chaos. No wonder Master Godly Mathematician and the others did not dare to step in. It turned out that the power of primal chaos was too terrifying. Too late. Longao did not even turn around when the power around him covered him. Whoosh! Longao's silhouette instantly disappeared from his original spot. He wantonly attacked in a frenzy. Within the primal chaos palace, Longao sat on the ground, panting heavily. Even now, Longao was still a little scared. Fortunately, he had the primal chaos palace. Otherwise, if he couldn't leave in time, he wouldn't have been able to hold on for even a second. What a terrifying primal chaos attack! Even Master God Diviner and the other rulers of the stars wouldn't be able to last even a second. We're in big trouble now. Encountering the current situation, Longao was depressed to the extreme. Now that he had entered the Chaos Hall, even though he had managed to avoid being killed by the power of chaos for the time being, it would still be difficult for him to leave the source of chaos. When they first entered, they did not encounter any attacks from the power of chaos. Now that he had entered, it wouldn't be easy for him to leave. If he couldn't leave in the shortest time possible, he would definitely be killed by the Chaos Palace. If he couldn't leave, didn't that mean he would have to stay here for the rest of his life? Perhaps there was only one way, and that was to refine the attribute-less Chaos Stone tablet in his body. When he became a ruler of the stars and mastered the power of chaos, he might be able to come and go freely in the source of chaos. But could he wait? He absolutely couldn't, because Longao knew very well that with Master God Diviner's calculation ability, once he calculated the location of the soaring dragon plane, no one would be able to resist Master God Diviner and the 9 half-step rulers of the stars before they became a ruler of the stars. At that time, he wouldn't even have the chance to regret. What should he do? The more he thought about it, the more solemn his expression became. Longao knew that it would be difficult for him to leave this place in a short time. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have come in, trying to steal a chicken only to end up losing the rice used to lure it. The 9 half-step rulers of the stars certainly knew that Master God Diviner wouldn't let them off so easily in the future, but the 9 had already thought of a countermeasure. As long as they got what they wanted, they would immediately escape. Even Master God Diviner might not be able to do anything to them. This matter shouldn't be spread. The 9 half-step rulers secretly began to search for Longao's location, and mobilized all the people they could. Even so, it wasn't an easy task to lock onto the location of the soaring dragon empire. Master God Diviner and Yi Dugu didn't give up in the slightest. Master God Diviner clearly knew that it would be difficult for him to lock onto the location of the soaring dragon empire, but he still calculated without hesitation. As for why he couldn't calculate, Master God Diviner's heart was as clear as a mirror. If he wasn't mistaken, the biggest reason why he couldn't calculate the location of the soaring dragon empire was because of Longao. In any case, Longao and the soaring dragon empire were inextricably linked and inseparable. For countless years, Master God Diviner regretted 2 things the most. The first thing was that he didn't take advantage of the original opportunity to destroy the 11 rulers of the stars in one fell swoop. If he had waited for all 11 of them to become rulers of the stars again, he would have been in a passive position again. The second thing was the so-called Longao. He thought that Longao was a variable that could help him obtain the primal chaos force, but he never thought that not only would Longao fail to help him obtain the primal chaos force, but he would also be his nemesis. Perhaps Longao would become a formidable enemy in the future. Although Master God Diviner regretted the first thing, he didn't intend to continue to pursue it, because it was almost impossible to destroy the 11 rulers at this time, because he had already missed the best opportunity. However, the second thing was imperative. Because Longao had escaped this time, coupled with his own calculation, there was no doubt that Longao would become a great threat to him in the future. He must kill Longao as soon as possible, so as to cut the weeds and eliminate the roots, and prevent future troubles. The vast starry sky was too big. If Longao deliberately hid, then even the 9 great starry sky empires, including Master God Diviner, wouldn't be easy to locate the soaring dragon empire in the vast starry sky. Originally, this matter had nothing to do with the Dragon Clan, but in order to deal with Longao and Long Tu, not only did Yu Bubi not give up, but he also continued to support the 9 great starry sky empires. In other words, the 9 great starry sky empires of the Human Clan and the Dragon Clan had formed an alliance to deal with Longao. Not only the Dragon Clan, but even the Massacre Clan also took the initiative to find both sides, hoping to join the alliance. Chapter 2582. There were 6 pinnacle races in the vast starry sky. Pinnacle Human Race, Pinnacle Dragon Race, Pinnacle Underworld Race, Pinnacle Rat Race, Pinnacle Killer Race, and Pinnacle Mystery Race. Pinnacle Human Race, Pinnacle Dragon Race, and Pinnacle Killer Race had formed an alliance. Their common enemy was Longao. As for Pinnacle Rat Race and Pinnacle Underworld Race, they did not want to interfere. The remaining Pinnacle Mystery Race had never interfered in the affairs of the vast starry sky since ancient times, let alone now. With the Pinnacle Dragon Race and Pinnacle Killer Race joining forces, the 9 half-step starry sky rulers were extremely surprised. There was no such thing as an airtight wall in the world. The news of the 3 Pinnacle races forming an alliance had spread throughout the vast starry sky. If it had been an alliance of other Pinnacle races, it would have been fine. Only the Pinnacle Killer race. Everyone in the vast starry sky knew what it meant to be a Pinnacle Killer race. The Pinnacle Killer race had committed countless sins. Otherwise, the 4 Pinnacle races would not have joined forces to deal with the Pinnacle Killer race. Although this incident had caused the vast starry sky to be hostile to the Pinnacle Killer race, they were still very repulsed. Many people did not want to hide the Pinnacle Dragon race and Pinnacle Human race's actions. If it had been any other time, the Pinnacle Dragon race and Pinnacle Human race would definitely have cared about it. But now? In order to successfully kill Longao, both the Pinnacle Dragon race and Pinnacle Human race no longer cared about this matter. In short, to kill Longao, no matter how great of a price one had to pay, it was worth it. They did not dare to voice their anger. Although many people were not convinced, the deterrence of the 3 peak races was there. There was no one who dared to provoke the lion and pull a tooth out of the tiger's mouth. The alliance of the 3 Pinnacle races to deal with Longao directly caused a sensation in the vast starry sky. Because this was something that had never happened before. What did this mean? The Pinnacle Dragon race, Pinnacle Human race, and Pinnacle Killer race were all supreme beings who dominated the vast starry sky. No one dared to provoke the 3 Pinnacle races. But now? The 3 Pinnacle races were actually joining forces to deal with Longao, who was only a starry sky immortal realm. After this news spread, they would become a complete joke. They did not care. In the vast starry sky, the winds and clouds changed. Everyone was looking forward to it because they wanted to see who would emerge victorious between Longao and the 3 Pinnacle races. If it were anyone else, there was no need to guess the result. The 3 Pinnacle races would definitely win. However, if this person was Longao, then the result would be completely different. Longao had chosen to ignore everyone. From the beginning until now, he had counterattacked and slapped their faces. You could say that. In the vast starry sky for countless years, Longao was a miracle. Father, if we work together with the Peak Stage Dragon tribe and the Peak Stage Human tribe, even if we can kill Longao in the future, I'm afraid the 2 Peak Stage Dragon tribe will stab us in the back. How could Zhou Dian not know Feng Er's concerns? Even if he knew, Zhou Dian wouldn't have cared. Otherwise, how could he have led a peak massacring race to join forces with 2 peak races to deal with Longao? Feng Er, I know what you're worried about. However, I also want to take advantage of this opportunity to establish a good relationship with the God Diviner. The God Diviner? He was very curious, wondering what his father meant. The God Diviner was a high and mighty starry sky ruler. How could he have anything to do with this matter? It was complete nonsense. However, Zhou Dian said, I received news that the God Diviner joined forces with 9 half-step starry sky rulers of the Peak Stage Human tribe to deal with Longao. However, the final result was, Longao is dead? Seeing his father shake his head, Zhou Feng asked curiously again, could it be that Longao was forcibly sealed? Zhou Dian shook his head again and said helplessly, I don't know if it's true or not, but I think it's true. The God Diviner joined forces with 9 half-step starry sky rulers to deal with Longao, but in the end, Longao still managed to escape. Although I don't know the reason, the God Diviner definitely won't let this go. Zhou Feng was completely shocked when he heard his father's words. He knew very well what his father meant. Was this true? Although he knew his father wouldn't fool him, Zhou Feng still found it hard to believe. After all, this matter was too shocking. No one would choose to believe it, let alone himself. The God Diviner has already instructed the peak stage human tribe to do this. Although I don't know why the peak stage dragon tribe would do this, this is the only way we can gain the God Diviner's trust. Father, why do we have to get close to the God Diviner? He was very curious. He was doing well now. Why did he have to curry favor with the God Diviner? He couldn't figure it out. Zhou Feng really couldn't figure it out. Feng I'll tell you about this matter later. Right now, we only have one main task. No matter what price we have to pay, we have to deal with Longao. Only then can we consider the God Diviner. Since his father had already said so, Zhou Feng couldn't say anything more. As for the peak stage dragon tribe, Yu Bubi basically made the decision alone. Since the peak stage dragon tribe knew that he wasn't a peak starry sky immortal, but a half-step starry sky dominator, everyone trusted him. If Long Tu hadn't chosen to submit to Longao, it might have been a different concept. After all, Long Tu was the true ancestor of the peak stage dragon tribe, not Yu Bubi. Unfortunately, this kind of thing depended on luck. Yu Bubi was a lucky person. Because of this, Yu Bubi wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to deal with Longao and Long Tu once and for all. Yu Bubi knew very well that once they dealt with Longao, Long Tu would definitely take action. If he was alone, he would definitely not be able to kill Long Tuesday. However, with the help of Zhou Dian and the 9 half-step starry sky dominators of the peak stage human tribe, it would be more than enough to kill Long Tuesday. This was the real reason for Yu Bubi's action. If it weren't for Long Tu, Yu Bubi definitely wouldn't have taken the risk casually just to deal with Longao, let alone to form an alliance with the peak stage massacre tribe. This was completely nonsense. It could be said that, although the peak stage dragon tribe, the peak stage human tribe, and the peak stage massacre tribe had formed an alliance to deal with Longao, each of the peak stage races had their own ulterior motive. It was impossible for them to form an alliance wholeheartedly. Longao didn't know about the alliance of the 3 peak stage races at all. He was still trapped in the primal chaos spring. Fortunately, he had the protection of the primal chaos palace. Otherwise, Longao wouldn't know what would have happened to him. Chapter 2583. Inside the Primal Chaos Palace. Longao had tried more than 100 times and failed every time. Not once had he succeeded in leaving the Primal Chaos Spring. Until now, Longao still couldn't figure out why he hadn't suffered any attacks when he was hundreds of meters inside the Primal Chaos Spring. Instead, he couldn't leave. As long as he left the Primal Chaos Palace, he would be attacked by the surrounding Primal Chaos Force. He would only die if he tried to resist. This time, he came to the Primal Chaos Spring to successfully devour a huge amount of power and break through to the Starry Sky Immortal Realm. But the result was a little special. In order to devour power, he had to pay with his life. It wasn't worth the loss. What should he do? His face was very dignified and helpless. Although he knew it was impossible, Longao still didn't want to give up. If the first time didn't work, he would try twice. If the second time didn't work, he would try thrice. If the third time didn't work, he would try 4 times. In Longao's view, there would always be a chance to leave the Primal Chaos Spring. Outside the Primal Chaos Palace, Longao's half-body had just appeared when he was attacked by the surrounding Primal Chaos Force. He couldn't move. This time, Longao didn't choose to give up easily. If this continued, who knew when it would end? Longao wasn't worried about himself, but his family. If the Oracle and the 9 half-step Starry Sky rulers locked onto his family, the consequences would be unimaginable. He wouldn't even have the chance to regret it. Holding the Primal Chaos Axe in his hand, the moment Longao hid in the Primal Chaos Palace, he took the opportunity to hack out. Longao didn't think that the power of his Primal Chaos Axe could create a space crack in the Primal Chaos Force space. But the result? At the same time as the primal chaos axe was chopped out, a trace of space crack appeared. Although it was not as good as the space crack outside, it already showed that the power of the primal chaos axe used by Longao had increased by several times. He was overjoyed. Although he didn't see it with his own eyes, Longao could feel it. With the success of the first time, Longao didn't hesitate and immediately started the second time. Seeing the space crack around the primal chaos force space, Longao rushed out with the help of the primal chaos 9-colored lotus. His speed soared to the extreme, as fast as he could. In this place, Longao did not dare to casually use time teleportation. This was because if the time teleportation was killed by the chaotic power, the consequences would be unimaginable. It was obvious what the consequences would be. I won't take any chances. Every time Longao took a step, he would immediately enter the primal chaos palace. Otherwise, even with the help of the spatial crack, he wouldn't be able to continue like this. 100 meters away. If it was in the outside world, it would be insignificant to Longao. But here, it was a completely different concept. The distance of 100 meters was like the distance between heaven and earth. Every millimeter was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. After several hours, Longao realized that he had only walked 1/3 of a meter. What kind of concept was that? At this speed, who knew how long it would take to cover the distance of 100 meters? Fortunately, he already had a solution. If he didn't have a solution and couldn't move an inch, that would be called despair. While leaving the Spring of Chaos, Longao did not choose to give up. Since he was already here, if he didn't continue to try, he wouldn't be satisfied. The Primal Chaos Seal could no longer be used. After all, the Primal Chaos Seal had transformed into the Primal Chaos 9-colored lotus and was fused with him. After fusing with the Primal Chaos 9-colored lotus, even he couldn't control it. Hence, it was basically impossible to rely on the Primal Chaos 9-colored lotus. He had already tried using the Primal Chaos Axe, but it couldn't devour the chaotic force. Thinking about it, in the end, Longao was prepared to use the attributeless Primal Chaos Stone Tablet to see if it could successfully devour the chaotic force. No matter what, the Primal Chaos Stone Tablet was the source of the chaotic force. Only by devouring and refining the Primal Chaos Stone Tablet could one control the chaotic force. Otherwise, everything was nonsense. It was impossible to bypass the Primal Chaos Stone Tablet and directly control the chaotic force. In the end, he still got nothing. Of course, Longao knew the reason. If he wasn't wrong, the reason why the Primal Chaos Stone Tablet couldn't devour the chaotic force was because he didn't refine the Primal Chaos Stone Tablet. Otherwise, it would be a different concept. Time passed by bit. After about half a year, Longao finally left the Primal Chaos Spring by relying on the space crack. Even so, Longao still didn't leave the Primal Chaos Spring. Still, he was a little unwilling. After all, with his current physique, no matter where he went, he would be a problem. Breaking through from the Starry Sky Immortal Realm to the peak Starry Sky Immortal Realm seemed to be a hurdle for him. Because even now, he didn't know how much chaotic force he would need to devour to break through. He wasn't sure. After thinking about it, he seemed to have no choice but to stay here. If he could devour the chaotic force, then not only could he rapidly increase his strength, he could even refine the Primal Chaos Stone Tablet and become a Starry Sky ruler. It was killing two birds with one stone. Staring at the Primal Chaos Spring in front of him, Longao didn't know what he should do. If it were anyone else, since they had already left the Primal Chaos Spring, they definitely wouldn't continue to enter. Not to mention ordinary Starry Sky cultivators, even Starry Sky rulers, including the Divine Mathematician, wouldn't dare to casually step into the Primal Chaos Spring. Otherwise, the Divine Mathematician wouldn't have let the 11 Starry Sky rulers go. The Primal Chaos Spring was probably the #1 forbidden land in the Starry Sky. No one else knew about it. The first was the martial heaven continent, which had been discovered by the god diviner. Through his calculations, the 11 primal chaos sovereigns had almost been killed. The second was this place. Xian Tong had discovered that it was almost identical to the martial heaven continent's primal chaos origin. It was even possible that it was the same place with 2 entrances. However, no one had ever entered or studied it. No one knew what was going on. One thing was certain. Whether it was the martial heaven continent's primal chaos spring or this primal chaos spring, neither was simple. For example, the primal chaos giant Peng. Although he had formed an alliance with the primal chaos giant Peng, since the primal chaos giant Peng hadn't said anything as a friend, he wouldn't ask. Longao didn't leave. Instead, he prepared to enter the primal chaos spring a second time. In any case, he had the primal chaos palace, the shattered starry sky, and the primal chaos 9-colored lotus protecting him. Chapter 2584. Without the chaos 9-colored lotus, Longao wouldn't have dared to step into the spring of chaos so casually. An immortal body could disregard everything. As long as he wasn't suppressed by the spring of chaos, everything would be fine. He took a step forward. Longao disappeared in an instant and stepped directly into the primal chaos spring. This time, Longao directly used the Chaos Palace. Needless to say, the Chaos Palace was powerful. If he could use the Chaos Palace to devour the surrounding chaotic energy, it wouldn't be a bad thing. He took a deep breath. As soon as he stepped in, Longao directly entered the Chaos Palace. He didn't fight it head-on because the current situation wasn't good for him. There was no need to take the risk. Even if the Chaos 9-colored lotus could make him immortal, it didn't mean that he wouldn't be suppressed by the chaos. If that really happened, he wouldn't even have the chance to regret it. Until now, Longao hadn't really controlled the Chaos Palace. But even so, he could still control the Chaos Palace. Would he succeed? Longao didn't know because he didn't understand the Chaos Palace at all. This time, he stepped into the spring of chaos with an attitude of trying to see if he could succeed. Longao was overjoyed when he felt the surrounding chaotic energy gushing into the primal Chaos Palace. He was pleasantly surprised. He knew very well what it meant for the Chaos Palace to be able to devour chaotic energy. In the beginning, Ao Long had to guide the Chaos Palace to devour the power of chaos with all his might. However, after a few dozen minutes, Ao Long no longer needed to guide the Chaos Palace. The Chaos Palace operated on its own and began to devour the power of chaos around it. He stood quietly within the primal Chaos Palace as he watched the primal chaos power being devoured. It entered the primal Chaos Palace in a very strange way before forming a huge black sphere. The black sphere was the chaotic energy outside. When it gathered to a certain extent, the black sphere stopped expanding. Although it stopped, the speed of devouring was getting faster and faster. The black sphere was like a bottomless pit. Not only did it devour faster and faster, it didn't even change in size. Longao didn't dare to take a step forward because he could clearly feel that the black sphere was too terrifying. Even if it was him, he would be suppressed instantly if he got close to the black sphere. If he was suppressed by the black sphere in the Chaos Palace, he would become a joke. He waited quietly. Longao didn't try to swallow the power of chaos. No matter what, he hadn't refined the attributeless chaos stone tablet yet. Otherwise, the results would be completely different. As for good or bad, Longao was almost certain that the more primal Chaos Palace devoured, the better it would be for the primal Chaos Palace. As for what the benefits were, no one knew. In the current situation, they could only wait. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. He had been devouring for 3 whole years. 3 years was nothing to Longao, but it wasn't a good thing for the Empire. I wonder if the Empire has been locked onto. Longao was extremely worried in his heart. However, the Chaos Hall was still devouring the surrounding chaotic energy continuously. Even though its speed had decreased slightly, it was still pretty much the same. If this continued, who knew when it would end? It was very depressing. If he had known this would happen, he would not have borrowed the Primal Chaos Palace to devour the Primal Chaos energy. Now, he was trapped here, unable to move. Without the protection of the Primal Chaos Palace, wanting to leave the source of Primal Chaos was simply a pipe dream. Force it? Longao had already thought it through. If the Chaos Hall was still devouring the Primal Chaos energy, then even if it was dangerous, he would forcefully stop the devouring. The longer he delayed, the more disadvantageous it would be for the Empire. Hence, he had to return as soon as possible to be at ease. It continued to devour. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, another year had passed. Longao had completely realized that if he allowed the Chaos Hall to continue devouring the Primal Chaos energy, not to mention 1 or 3 years, even 3 to 5,000 years might not be enough. Rather than waiting for such a long time, he might as well settle it now. As for the Chaos Hall devouring the Primal Chaos energy, since it had succeeded this time, it meant that he could casually step into the source of Primal Chaos and borrow the Chaos Hall to devour the Primal Chaos energy. Longao did not personally take action because no one knew if the Black Sphere would backfire on him. It was better to be safe than sorry. Of course, Longao would not casually take this risk. Instead, he held the Chaos Axe and slashed at the Black Sphere. Not only that, he tried to control the Chaos Hall to see if he could forcefully stop the devouring. There was a loud boom. It was true that what one feared would happen. Just as Longao was about to increase his strength, and before he could even react, the situation suddenly changed. His entire body was covered by the Black Sphere. Startled, Longao screamed in his heart. He was not worried that he would die. After all, he had fused with the Chaos 9-colored lotus and was immortal. Even the Primal Chaos energy could not do that. However, not dying did not mean that he was not simple. Longao knew very well that once he was sealed by the Black Sphere, the consequences would be unimaginable. After all, his current situation was very unfavorable and he could not afford to waste any time. Their surroundings were pitch black and they didn't suffer any attack. It was like a black space. From the outside, the Black Sphere didn't look too big. However, after entering the Black Sphere, the entire space became very big. It was like a plane of existence. Longao was very curious. He walked slowly, step by step, and tried to release the power of his soul to see if it could cover this Black Sphere space. However, the final result made him very disappointed, because as long as he released the power of his soul, it would be blocked. It couldn't even reach a range of tens of meters. What was going on? Longao was very curious because he could almost be sure that this was a space formed by the fusion of the Primal Chaos energy. As for why it was not attacked, he did not know. The surrounding space was almost exactly the same. There was no difference. Longao didn't want to stay any longer. Instead, he began to prepare to leave this place. He couldn't stay here forever. His spirit could not go beyond tens of meters. It was too difficult to find the exit. Even so, Longao had no choice. He had already wasted a lot of time, and he could not afford to waste any more time. Longao tried to use time teleportation, but found that it was impossible. He could only try to use his fastest speed to see if he could find the exit in the shortest amount of time. However, it was still that sentence. It was easy to think about it, but it was very difficult to actually do it. Chapter 2585. Pst, 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 pst. Right at this moment. Suddenly, a hissing sound came from all around. It wasn't ear-piercing, but it definitely wasn't pleasant to hear. Instantly stopping, Longao looked around curiously. He didn't know what was going on with the sound that suddenly came over. There was no movement. There wasn't the slightest difference. Longao became more and more curious. He didn't know what was going on. He didn't dare to act rashly because he didn't know what was going on around him. If he suffered a backlash, who knew what would happen? It was already not easy to find the exit. If they encountered an accident, it would be even more difficult. If it were any other time, Longao wouldn't have cared. But now, the situation was completely different. It was better to be safe than sorry. No one knew what was going on with this black sphere. If they took a wrong step, the consequences would be unimaginable. Pist, 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 pist. The sizzling sound was getting closer and closer, as if it was right in front of him. Longao had just taken a few steps when he stopped again. His expression became more and more serious. How strange! Longao could not sense any aura of the power of primal chaos in his surroundings. Basically, there was no flow of aura at all. As for sound, as long as he stopped, the sizzling sound would immediately stop. Once he moved, the sizzling sound would return to normal. It was too strange. Zhang Xian took a step forward, and just as he had expected, there was a hissing sound all around him, as if it was right beside his ears. Chaos Axe? Just as Longao was wondering what was going on around him, the situation suddenly changed. The Primal Chaos Axe, which was originally in the Primal Chaos Palace, suddenly appeared in front of him and floated quietly. Without waiting for Longao to react, a sizzling sound appeared from all around. Suddenly, it quickly rushed towards this side. Not long after, countless black air currents emerged. It turned out to be the sizzling sound of the black airflow. Could it be because of the Chaos Axe? Longao was very clear in his heart that the Primal Chaos Axe could not appear here casually. Moreover, he even asserted that the Starry Sky Divine Tool he obtained was definitely not simple. Especially when combined with the Primal Chaos 9 axes, it was simply incomparable. Just the first move, Hell's Devour, had already given him a pleasant surprise. Not to mention, there were still 8 moves to follow. The more he thought about it, the more he looked forward to it. Longao did not act rashly. This was because the heaven-defying Starry Sky God weapon had its own spirituality. Take Bai Ling and Xiling for example. Both of them were originally sword bodies. After countless years of cultivation, they finally became Jianling. Countless black air currents gushed out from all directions and headed straight for the chaotic axe without any hesitation. He was shocked. Even though he knew, Longao couldn't help but be shocked. Countless streams of black air began to surge into the chaos axe. Because it was moving too fast, the chi-chi sound became louder and louder. It was like thunder from the 9 heavens. The black airflow has formed a pattern on the chaos axe. As the black airflow gathered faster and faster, it gradually formed a pattern on the surface of the chaos axe. However, it was still impossible to tell what the pattern was. What kind of pattern was it? About 10 minutes later, Longao began to recognize the pattern formed by the black airflow on the chaos axe. If it was before, he wouldn't have recognized it. However, it was all too familiar to him now. The pattern on the Chaos Axe was none other than the 9-colored lotus. The 9-colored lotus pattern was almost exactly the same as the chaotic 9-colored lotus that was formed by the Chaos Seal. Longao was very curious. He didn't know what was going on. After the 9-colored lotus was formed, the surrounding black airflow stopped gushing in and the Chaos Axe returned to Longao's hands. Longao gently stroked the Chaos Axe in his hand, especially the 9-colored lotus pattern on the Chaos Axe. Until now, he still didn't know what was going on. He was very curious. He shrugged helplessly. Once Longao's hand touched the 9-colored lotus pattern on the Chaos Axe, he felt a blood connection. Vaguely, there seemed to be a very strange feeling. Longao's intuition told him. The nine-colored lotus that was just formed on the Chaos Axe must be related to the nine-colored lotus that he merged with. As for what kind of connection it was, he didn't know. Longao gently closed his eyes. The surrounding black airflow with countless chi all gushed into the Chaos Axe. In just a few seconds, the Chaos Axe devoured the entire black sphere. Suddenly, he opened his eyes and looked at the Chaos Palace. Longao wasn't surprised because he already knew that this would be the result from the moment he held the Chaos Axe. Hence, he wasn't worried at all. All the chaos energy that was devoured by the Chaos Axe. As for him, he still got nothing. He felt very helpless. Even if he was unwilling, there was nothing he could do because Longao found a problem. The chaos energy that was devoured by the Chaos Axe had nothing to do with him. In desperation, Longao could only choose to leave. It took him a long time to leave the Chaos Spring. This time, Longao didn't continue to stay because it was impossible to rely on the Chaos Spring to break through the limit of the Starry Sky Immortal Realm. Instead of that, he might as well think of other ways to help his cultivation to break through smoothly. After returning to the Soaring Dragon Empire, Longao was relieved to find that his family was fine. In the past few years, he was most worried about his family. The empire was his bottom line. After spending some time with his grandfather, parents and wife, Longao put his mind on the vast starry sky. Longao was very surprised that the 9 great starry sky empires of the Dragon Clan, Massacre Clan and Human Clan had joined forces. He never thought that the Dragon Clan and Human Clan would join forces against the Massacre Clan. It was crazy. Immediately finding Longao went straight to the point and said, "Big brother, regarding the matter of the vast starry sky, I believe you already know that the 3 pinnacle races have joined hands, and if we still sit and wait for death, then there will be a lot of trouble." As the emperor of the Soaring Dragon Empire, Longing went out from time to time. Of course, he knew about the 3 great clans joining forces. Everyone in the vast starry sky knew that the 3 great clans joined forces to deal with Longao. This was also what Longing was worried about. "Seventh brother, the current situation is very unfavorable for us. In your opinion, what should we do now?" Even Longing didn't know what to do for a while. After all, the 3 great clans were too powerful. Unless the Starry Sky Dominator came, no one could be their opponent. P.S. The 9th chapter has been delivered. The remaining chapter will be delivered later. Chapter 2586. He was very afraid. Longing looked worried. After all, he knew better than anyone what it meant for the 3 pinnacle races to join hand. Even if his 7th brother was extremely talented and powerful, he would never believe that his 7th brother could fight against the 3 peak races alone, even if he was beaten to death. His 7th brother was only a Starry Sky Immortal, not even a peak Starry Sky Immortal. Adding up the Pinnacle Dragon race, the Pinnacle Slaughterer race, and the Pinnacle Human race, there were 11 half-step Starry Sky Dominators. What did that mean? Big brother, I believe you know what the Pinnacle Slaughterer race means. Now that the Pinnacle Dragon race and the Pinnacle Human race have joined hands, it's a mistake in itself. What did that mean? Longing was very curious about his 7th brother's meaning. Of course, Longing knew the history of the Pinnacle Slaughterer race. In the past, the Pinnacle Slaughterer race would not have dared to rise again. After waiting for so many years and feeling that no one in the universe was against them, the Pinnacle Slaughterer race dared to appear and rise again. Even so, what could they do? 7th brother, what do you mean? Longing smiled. Big brother, the Pinnacle Slaughterer race is the biggest taboo in the universe. Let's beat them at their own game and spread the news about the past of the Pinnacle Slaughterer race. In an instant, Longing understood the meaning of Longao's words. I'll do it now. Not daring to be careless, Longing immediately left and arranged for people to do it. In just a few hours, the news about the 3 pinnacle races had spread throughout the universe, especially the pinnacle slaughterer race. They deliberately exaggerated as much as possible. Originally, many people did not have a good impression of the pinnacle slaughterer race. Because of this, everyone hated them even more. The pinnacle slaughterer race had killed countless people from the 4 major races. Although many years had passed, the hatred could not be forgotten. If it were not for the strength of the pinnacle slaughterer race, someone would have taken revenge long ago. Longao did not think that others could help him deal with the pinnacle slaughterer race. No matter what. As one of the 6 pinnacle races, the pinnacle slaughterer race was strong and had a half-step starry sky dominator. Unless the other top clans made a move, no one would be able to shake the position of the top slaughter clan. Longao's intention was very simple. He wanted everyone in the vast starry sky to know how shameless the peak-level dragons and peak-level humans were. Would he care? Whether it was the peak human race or the peak dragon race, he did not care at all. If it were any other matter, the 2 pinnacle races would definitely not join hands to attack the pinnacle slaughterer clan. This was without a doubt. Except for Longao. Even Master God Diviner was unable to kill Longao. The 9 of them were completely helpless. As for you Booby, it was not only for the sake of Longao, but also for the sake of the Dragon Slayer. If they wanted to kill the 2 of them, it was basically impossible with their strength alone. They could only join forces with the other 2 pinnacle races. He ignored everyone's dissatisfaction and curses. Soaring Dragon Realm. Inside the Grand Hall. 7th brother, according to your instructions, I've already spread the news throughout the vast starry sky. However, the peak humans and the peak dragons don't care at all. Longing knew very well what his 7th brother meant. However, he did not expect that neither the peak human race nor the peak dragon race would care about this matter. If that was the case, then no one would be able to deal with the 3 pinnacle races. Big brother, we're fine for the time being. In the vast starry sky, not to mention others, even Master God Diviner would find it difficult to lock onto our position in a short period of time. Longao was still very confident about this. This was because, under normal circumstances, if Master God Diviner could lock onto the Empire's position, then he would not have been helpless for so many years. However, Longao did not tell his big brother about his worries because he knew very well that even if Master God Diviner could not lock onto the Empire's position now, it did not mean that he would not be able to do so in the future. If he was unlucky and the Empire was locked onto by Master God Diviner, then things would be troublesome. Even if Master God Diviner did not personally take action, others would not have the slightest chance. How could Longing not know what his 7th brother was implying? However, since Longao did not say anything, he did not continue to ask. 7th brother, what are we going to do next? Let me think about it. The current situation was very unfavorable for him. The longer he delayed, the more unfavorable it would be for him and the Empire. Therefore, he had to think of a way to deal with this matter. No matter what happened, he could not let anything happen to the Empire. However, none of those who had swallowed the Chaos Tablets had been able to successfully refine them and become a Starry Sky Dominator. If someone in the Empire could become a Starry Sky Dominator, even if it was only one person, then the Empire and he would not be so passive. If that was really the case, then the situation would be completely reversed. He felt helpless because refining a primal Chaos Tablet was not an easy task. The person who had obtained the 12 primal Chaos Tablets had spent countless years refining them. One could imagine how difficult it was to refine a primal Chaos Tablet. Sitting alone in the main hall, Longao's expression was very dignified. 3 days later, Longao could not sit still anymore. After leaving the Soaring Dragon Realm, he went to the number 1 Starry Sky Empire of the human race. He wanted to see if the 3 pinnacle races were like an iron plate. Longao did not show himself because the situation was completely different now. Once the three pinnacle races found out about him, they would definitely go all out to deal with him. If he did not show up, then he might find an opportunity. Longao's intention was very simple. He wanted to think of a way to make the three pinnacle races kill each other. In this way, he could watch the fire from the other side of the river and reap the benefits from it. This matter was very simple to think about, but it was very difficult to do because the three pinnacle races were not fools. They had a common goal. Unless he had fallen, it was very difficult for the three pinnacle races to have internal strife. Soon, Longao had silently entered the first realm. However, he did not make a move this time. Again, the main purpose of this trip was to observe the situation and see if there was any way to deal with the three pinnacle races. As for the grudge between him and the number 1 Starry Sky Empire, there would be plenty of opportunities in the future. There was no need to rush and expose his identity. It was not worth it. Longao hid his aura. As long as he did not expose his identity, it would be very difficult for anyone to find him. P.S. I'm really sorry. I originally finished writing at 11:30, but there was no internet. Little 9 waited until now. I'll upload before going to sleep. Good night, everyone. All 10 chapters have been delivered. Chapter 2587. The current First Universe Empire had a heavy atmosphere. Dark clouds gathered. Because the three pinnacle races teaming up to deal with Longao was a joke in itself. And the First Universe Empire, as the strongest pinnacle human empire, was even more of a joke. Not only that, the pinnacle race teaming up with the pinnacle human and dragon race was actually the pinnacle slaughter race that everyone cursed. Humiliation. It was a complete humiliation. Longao's trip to the primal chaos spring this time, even though his cultivation hadn't truly reached the pinnacle space undying level, he had already reached the true pinnacle space undying level. At this moment, Longao was full of confidence. As long as he didn't meet 2 or more pinnacle space undying level experts, in a one-on-one situation, he was confident he could kill them. Because of this, stepping into the First Universe Empire, Longao was prepared to deal with Bai Hua and the 3 Space Eagles, taking them down one by one. Originally, he wasn't willing to reveal his identity, fearing the alliance between the 3 pinnacle races would become more stable. But now, Longao had changed his mind. Instead of trying to incite internal strife between the 3 pinnacle races, he might as well divert everyone's attention to himself. That way, the 3 pinnacle races wouldn't even put their attention on the Empire. For the Empire, he had to do this. Wanting to kill any pinnacle space undying alone wasn't an easy task. The only way was to wait. Or create an opportunity. The First Universe Empire. Because of the alliance, Beijing wasn't even in the First Universe Empire. In other words, the current First Universe Empire only had Bai Hua and the 3 Space Eagles. However, to the First Universe Empire, having the 4 of them was more than enough. One had to know, the 4 of them were all powerful pinnacle space undying level experts. Once they teamed up, unless it was a space ruler or half-step space ruler, no one would dare challenge them. It was complete nonsense. Bai Hua was the emperor of the First Universe Empire. He had a lot of things to deal with. As for the 3 Space Eagles, their situation was completely different from Bai Hua. When they had nothing to do, they would go into closed-door cultivation. In the entire hall, there was only Bai Hua. Within the empty hall, Bai Hua's expression was helpless. After so many years, he had never encountered such a situation. Longao could be said to be an anomaly that even the 3 pinnacle races teaming up couldn't handle. Sometimes, even he himself found it laughable. To deal with a small space undying, they actually had to make such a big fuss. The biggest reason. It was also because Longao didn't appear at all. If they fought head-on, any peak universe immortal could easily kill Longao, let alone the three pinnacle races. Regarding the heaven-defying starry sky divine artifact in Longao's possession, everyone was endlessly fearful. With this heaven-defying starry sky spirit artifact, Longao was in an invincible position. Sigh. He sighed deeply. I wonder why your majesty Bai Hua is sighing like this? Looking at the young man who suddenly appeared in front of him, Bai Hua immediately stood up from his seat. His face was filled with shock and disbelief, because he had never imagined that Longao would appear at this moment. Wasn't this courting death? Seeing that Bai Hua didn't speak, Longao had already guessed the other party's thoughts. He sneered in his heart and said with a smile, Bai Hua, do you think I'm walking into a trap this time? Not to mention Bai Hua, perhaps no matter who it was, everyone would think so. As expected of the number 1 Starry Sky Emperor, and a peak universe immortal, Bai Hua quickly calmed down and said, Longao, since you know you're walking into a trap, why did you still come? He didn't attack immediately. Bai Hua was very curious. Since Longao knew he was no match for them, why did he still come? The more Longao acted like this, the more uncertain Bai Hua was. Speaking of which, it was simply laughable. With Bai Hua's strength and identity, he was actually so afraid of a person. If this was spread out, it would probably become the biggest joke. Bai Hua, I came this time to kill you. There wasn't the slightest surprise. Apart from this possibility, Bai Hua really couldn't think of any other reason why Longao would come for no reason. If the old ancestor was here, even if Longao was given 100,000 guts, he believed that Longao wouldn't dare to appear. Even so, did Longao really have the confidence to kill him? In Bai Hua's view, this was completely nonsense and impossible. Bai Hua laughed. Ha ha, ha ha, ha 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 ha. Bai Hua looked up to the sky and laughed crazily. He didn't release his aura at all, because in his view, if he could kill Longao alone, he knew better than anyone what it meant. Bai Jing wasn't in the number 1 Starry Sky Empire, but it didn't mean that the 3 Starry Sky Eagles weren't. Longao had guessed that Bai Hua wouldn't casually summon the 3 Space Eagles because of his conceit. If that was the case, it would indeed give him a chance, because it would be very difficult for him to defeat 4 people by himself. However, if it was a one-on-one battle, it would be a completely different concept. Longao didn't speak. He looked at Bai Hua, who was laughing crazily, and sneered. With a stride forward, he instantly disappeared from the spot. The speed of time teleportation was very fast. Bai Hua had already sensed that something was wrong with the aura. After Bai Hua stopped laughing, he immediately released his power. However, from the beginning to the end, he still thought that Longao was not his opponent at all. The difference in strength between a Starry Sky Immortal Expert and a Peak Starry Sky Immortal Expert was too great. They weren't even on the same level. Not to mention 1 Starry Sky Immortal Expert, even 8 or 10 Starry Sky Immortals wouldn't be a match for a Peak Starry Sky Immortal Expert. This was a huge gap that couldn't be made up with other things. Bai Hua really couldn't figure out what gave Longao such great courage. He actually dared to take the initiative to attack him. It was a complete provocation. If he didn't kill Longao, would he still have any face left? If Longao hid in a Starry Sky Divine Tool, he really wouldn't be able to do anything. However, if it was a head-on battle, Bai Hua wasn't worried at all. This was the confidence brought by strength. But what was the result? Time teleportation? Bai Hua was a little dumbfounded when he saw Longao appear in front of him in an instant. However, he still attacked without hesitation. This time, Longao obviously didn't dodge. Instead, he punched with both fists. Although he didn't use the Primal Chaos Axe, he fused the first axe of the Primal Chaos 9 axes, Hell Devouring, into his fist. In an instant, the two of them fiercely smashed together. With a loud bang, Longao took 3 steps back, while Bai Hua took dozens of steps back. Chapter 2588. What kind of concept was that? Bai Hua was completely stunned, his face filled with disbelief. A starry sky immortal defeated a peak starry sky immortal in one move. Such a thing had never happened before. What happened just now? Bai Hua's face instantly turned gloomy. He felt even more embarrassed because as a peak starry sky immortal, even if he hadn't reached the peak, he wasn't someone a starry sky immortal could provoke. At this moment, Bai Hua finally knew why Longao dared to provoke him. Until now, Bai Hua still didn't know how Longao did it. Longao? These 2 words represented the complicated feelings in Bai Hua's heart. No wonder the 3 pinnacle races joined forces. No wonder the old ancestor didn't hesitate to join forces with the pinnacle massacre race. Now he finally understood why. Longao's talent and strength were too terrifying. If he could become a peak starry sky immortal, then he wouldn't even have a chance to fight back. It was unbelievable just thinking about it. Bai Hua, do you think I can still kill you now? If it was before, Bai Hua wouldn't believe that a mere starry sky immortal could threaten him. However, the truth was right in front of him, even if he didn't want to believe it. Longao, so what if you can threaten me? Now that the 3 pinnacle races have joined forces, do you think you can contend against them? Regarding the meaning of Bai Hua, Longao was very clear in his heart. If I cared about the 3 pinnacle races joining forces, I wouldn't have come today. This was the truth. If it was someone else, they would have surrendered or gone into hiding when facing the 3 pinnacle races joining forces. Only Longao didn't. Not only did he not back down, but he was ready to meet force with force. In the eyes of outsiders, Longao was an out-and-out madman who wasn't afraid of anything. Bai Hua sneered and said coldly, Longao, you don't have the strength to kill me. This time, Bai Hua took the initiative to attack. As a peak starry sky immortal, Bai Hua's strength wasn't just for show. It seemed a little difficult to kill Bai Hua in a short time. Longao was very clear that he had to end the battle quickly. Otherwise, once the 3 eagles of starry sky arrived and interfered in this matter, it would be almost impossible to continue killing Bai Hua. Of course, Bai Hua knew that he was already destined to not be Longao's opponent with the lessons learned from the previous failure just now. Although he didn't want to believe it, the truth was the truth and couldn't be changed. His aura had already been released. At the same time, 3 powerful auras soared into the sky. As peak universe undyings, the 3 eagles arrived in a blink of an eye. Longao didn't continue attacking because things had already come to this, and even if he attacked with his full strength, it would be useless, so why waste time? Looks like I'm still not strong enough. Although I've reached the peak starry sky immortal realm, it's still a bit difficult to insta-kill a peak starry sky immortal realm. The combined power of 4 pinnacle universe undyings was terrifying. Looking at Longao in front of them, even the 3 starry sky eagles were a little surprised. Under such circumstances, Longao still dared to come forward. He was simply walking right into their trap. Your Majesty, what is going on? I just lost. Ah. Hearing Bai Hua's words, the 3 starry sky eagles were completely shocked. Of course, they knew the difference in strength between Longao and Bai Hua. They weren't on the same level at all. They didn't dare to imagine how Longao defeated Bai Hua. However, the 3 also knew that His Majesty didn't need to deceive them. Longao, aren't you a little too arrogant? One person might not be Longao's opponent, but that didn't mean that the 4 of them together wouldn't be Longao's opponent. Bai Hua, consider yourself lucky today, but I will be back. Want to leave? Just as the 3 starry sky eagles were about to attack, Longao disappeared without a trace. Although they knew the result, the 4 still looked helpless. According to the half-step starry sky rulers, Longao's starry sky god tool was heaven-defying. Only 3 or more half-step starry sky rulers working together could lock space and prevent Longao from entering the spatial starry sky god tool. Even half-step starry sky rulers couldn't do it, let alone peak starry sky immortals. Of course, the 3 of them knew that this was the real reason why Longao dared to provoke the Empire so openly. In the end, it was because Longao had this heaven-defying starry sky god tool. If we don't get rid of this person, he will be a great threat. Now I finally know why the 3 pinnacle races joined forces. Bai Hua didn't hide anything and told them what had just happened in full detail. The more they listened, the more dignified they became because the 3 starry sky eagles certainly knew what had just happened. Longao being able to repel Bai Hua with one move was a legend in itself. Your Majesty, Longao is only a starry sky immortal now, yet he can shake your strength. When his cultivation breaks through to the starry sky immortal realm, I'm afraid that even if the 4 of us join forces, we won't be a match for him. It wasn't just the 3 starry sky eagles. Even Bai Hua knew this. However, even the great ancestor and the others couldn't kill Longao, let alone them. As long as Longao's starry sky god tool was not destroyed, it was almost impossible for them to kill Longao. Even so, what could they do? They felt helpless and angry because the 4 of them didn't know what Longao's origin was. In just a few hundred years, he had actually grown to his current level. They regretted it very much. If they had known this would happen, they would have killed Longao no matter what happened back then. If that had happened, they wouldn't have been in trouble today. What should we do now? The 3 starry sky eagles knew very well that Bai Hua was still in charge of the number 1 starry sky empire. Especially when Bai Jing wasn't around, they still had to ask. In your opinion, what should we do now? Sky Eagle thought for a moment and said, if nothing unexpected happens, Longao shouldn't leave this place for the time being. We shouldn't act blindly without thinking, lest Longao leaves. It's better to wait for Master to come back. When the time comes, even if Longao has 3 heads and 6 arms, he won't be able to leave the number 1 starry sky empire alive. Bai Hua shrugged helplessly. He knew very well that things had already come to this, and this was the only way. Unless the great ancestor and the others personally took action, it would be a little difficult for the 4 of them to kill Longao. As for when Bai Jing would return after leaving, it was still unknown. Although the 3 pinnacle races had joined forces, each of them had their own ulterior motive. The alliance couldn't work together in a short time. This was without a doubt. Chapter 2589. Just as Bai Hua and the 3 starry sky eagles had guessed, Longao wouldn't leave the first starry sky empire casually. This time, they didn't succeed in killing Bai Hua because of the intervention of the 3 starry sky eagles. It was impossible to kill him in a second. The 2 sides were too close. As long as Bai Hua summoned them, the 3 starry sky eagles could appear at any time. If they waited until Bai Jing returned, things would become even more troublesome. The first plane. Countless starry sky empires stood, but among the many starry sky empires, the first starry sky empire was undoubtedly the most powerful. These starry sky empires were subordinate to the first starry sky empire. There was no need to talk about their loyalty. Otherwise, these starry sky empires wouldn't have stayed in the first plane. Longao casually found an empire and entered it. What should I do to lure out Bai Hua? 1 against 4, he definitely couldn't defeat all 4. In a one-on-one situation, Longao had full confidence in killing Bai Hua. However, it wouldn't be easy to lure out Bai Hua. He had to deal with Bai Hua before Bai Jing returned. Otherwise, with Bai Jing in charge, the difficulty would increase infinitely. What should he do? After finding a secluded place to rest, he began to think of various ways to lure out Bai Hua without anyone noticing. Bai Hua and the other three didn't leak this matter. After all, it was a bit too embarrassing. Since the three pinnacle races formed an alliance, not only Bai Jing, but even the other 8 half-step Starry Sky rulers had all left. In order to deal with Longao, everyone had put in a lot of effort. The matter of the 3 pinnacle dragon clans joining forces to deal with Longao had vaguely surpassed the matter of the white-robed girl and the primal chaos Great Peng. The momentum was unparalleled, and this topic was everywhere. If the 3 pinnacle dragon clans and Longao fought, whether the 3 pinnacle dragon clans or the madman Longao would emerge victorious was still unknown until the last moment. If it were anyone else, there was no doubt that the 3 pinnacle races would win. Except for Longao. Longao was a variable. If he was so easy to deal with, Longao wouldn't have lived until now. The other Starry Sky rulers didn't know about the agreement between Master Godly Mathematician and Yun Lu, but they already knew. All of them turned pale with fright. 3 rulers of the stars had appeared all of a sudden, which was a bit unbelievable. Most importantly, no one knew what the relationship between Yun Lu and Longao was. Yun Lu had once said that his daughter liked Longao. In other words, Longao was Yun Lu's son-in-law. It was still unknown whether this was true or not. It was still the same old saying. Right now, the Starry Sky rulers were all focused on refining the Primal Chaos Tablet. As for dealing with Longao, no one was willing to do anything. Master God Diviner had wanted to give it a try, but as soon as he asked the Blood Devil, he was rejected. He chose to give up. Master God Diviner's only hope was that the 3 peak races would be able to suppress the Longao, and then reap the rewards. Master God Diviner, who had already deduced that Longao was a major threat, couldn't wait any longer. This was because he knew that if Longao didn't die, he would definitely be a big problem in the future. Cut the weeds and dig up the roots to prevent future troubles. Tianwu Continent. In the outer sea, within the Crystal Palace. Father, although the 3 peak races have joined forces, they each have their own ulterior motives. If this continues, they won't be able to do anything. Yi Dugu was infuriated. He had thought that with the 3 peak races joining forces, dealing with Longao would be an easy matter. But the result? Yi Dugu had never imagined that the 3 peak races joining forces would be a pain in the ass. Each peak race had their own motives, and none of them were willing to go all out. Let alone the peak dragon race and the peak slaughterer race, even the peak human race wasn't united. Master God Diviner wasn't the slightest bit surprised. He had already guessed that this matter would develop to this point. It would be strange if the 3 peak races didn't have the slightest bit of selfish motives. It doesn't matter if the 3 peak races are united or not. As long as they can help me kill Longao, it's fine. This was the crux of the matter. Master God Diviner didn't care about the 3 peak races. Even if he took a step back, he wouldn't be afraid of a Starry Sky ruler. Even if Yun Lu was one of the 3 Starry Sky rulers, he still wouldn't dare to provoke him casually. Only Longao, after all, wasn't a random person. Father, with the 3 peak races joining forces, Longao will definitely be wary. Without locking space in advance, if Longao doesn't appear, we won't be able to do anything. How could Master God Diviner not know what his son was worried about? This matter was indeed a bit troublesome. If he said he wasn't worried, he would be lying. In the current situation, the one who wanted to kill Longao the most was none other than Master God Diviner. After all, Master God Diviner had already calculated that Longao would be a huge problem in the future. If he didn't kill Longao as soon as possible, who knew what would happen? With a slightly dignified expression, Master God Diviner thought for a moment and said, Dugu, you go on a trip on my behalf and inform all half-step Starry Sky rulers to work together to kill Longao. As for the grudges between them, we'll talk about it later. If they delay my work, suppress them. Okay, I'll go now. Yi Dugu, of course, knew what his father meant. At this point, not to mention his father, even he was a little wary. This was the first time he had seen his father like this. It seemed that Longao wasn't simple. After Yi Dugu left, Master God Diviner didn't stay idle. He immediately began to calculate. He wasn't calculating Longao's location, because Longao was protected by a heaven-defying starry sky divine artifact. Even if his location was calculated, it would be difficult for anyone to kill Longao if he didn't do it himself. His top priority now was to calculate the location of Soaring Dragon Empire. Once he took control of Soaring Dragon Empire, Longao would be meat on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. Master God Diviner was very curious because, under normal circumstances, he could calculate the location of an empire in a matter of minutes. But now, because of Longao, it was very difficult for him to determine the location of Soaring Dragon Empire. The more this was the case, the more helpless and fearful Master God Diviner became. If he had known this would happen, he would have regretted it. One wrong step led to many wrong steps. Moreover, it was a bit too wrong. Yi Dugu came on behalf of Master God Diviner. The three peak empires, each with their own ulterior motives, suddenly united because every half-step Starry Sky ruler knew very well that if Master God Diviner personally took action, they wouldn't have the slightest chance to suppress them. Even if they didn't want to, they had to do so. Chapter 2590. Longao didn't stay any longer. Because he knew that with the alliance of the three pinnacle races, the 9 half-step universe rulers of the 9 great cosmic empires weren't in their respective empires. He couldn't kill Bai Hua, but that didn't mean he couldn't kill the others. He definitely couldn't kill the second cosmic empire. The second cosmic empire had 3 universe rulers. If he rashly went there, the result would be the same. It would be a waste of time. Without a doubt, Longao chose the third cosmic empire. Longao didn't dare to forget Gong's son He's betrayal. The third cosmic empire only had one peak universe immortal, and that was the emperor of the empire, Gong's son Ao. It was still the same. If it was 1 against 2, 1 against 3, or even 1 against 4, Longao wouldn't be able to kill him. However, if it was 1 against 1, Longao was confident. If nothing unexpected happened, Gong's son Ao would be dead for sure as long as he made a move. Longao's speed was extremely fast. He arrived at the third plane very quickly. Just as Longao guessed. With the alliance of the 3 pinnacle races, the 9 half-step universe rulers of the 9 great cosmic empires had all left their respective empires. It was the best opportunity. Longao, don't go too far. Longao just stepped into the third plane and directly attacked the third cosmic empire. He chose to ignore it. Apart from Gongsun He, Longao did not even put Gongsun Ao in his eyes in the entire third Starry Sky Empire. The two instantly exchanged blows. In a few minutes, Gongsun Ao gradually couldn't resist. If this situation continued, the result could be imagined. Gongsun Ao would definitely lose. There was no doubt about it. Ha ha ha, Gongsun Ao, if you're willing to submit, I can spare your life. Submit? That was almost impossible. Gongsun Ao was furious to the extreme. He couldn't believe it. Until now, Gongsun Ao still hadn't reacted. Because, under normal circumstances, a universe immortal shouldn't be a peak universe immortal. The difference in strength between the two was too great. Longao's strength wasn't just enough to shake him, he could even kill him. Is this true? Currently, Longao was only a Starry Sky immortal. If he waited until Longao's cultivation broke through the limit of the Starry Sky immortal realm, he would be able to insta-kill him. Just thinking about it made him shudder. Based on the current situation, it seemed that no one could suppress Longao other than the great ancestor. In the future, he couldn't always follow the old ancestor. Not only that, looking at how strong Longao was right now, Gongsun Ao's heart was filled with regret. However, there was nothing he could do about it. He simply could not make the decision for the old ancestor. With Longao's talent and potential, who knew how far Longao would develop in the future? All the powerhouses of the Third Starry Sky Empire quickly retreated, and no one dared to step forward to help. Longao was simply too powerful. It could be said that Longao could kill any god or Buddha that came his way. Such a Longao was simply too terrifying. Even Gongsun Ao was no match for Longao. One could only imagine who else in the Third Starry Sky Empire could suppress Longao other than the old ancestor Gongsun He. This time around, Gongsun Ao was doomed. Ha! Are you afraid? Gongsun Ao did not speak. Things had already come to this, and he did not know what else to say. Even though he could hold on for a while with his strength, how long could he last? 1 minute? Or 10 minutes? Boom! 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 Gongsun Ao was hit continuously. One had to admit that as a peak Starry Sky immortal, Gongsun Ao's strength and defense were extremely strong. To be able to take a few hits from Longao without dying, he was severely injured. If this were to continue, one could only imagine the outcome. Without any hesitation, Longao struck while the iron was hot. If he could not kill Gongsun Ao this time around, it would be extremely difficult for him to kill Gongsun Ao in the future. Once Gongsun, he returned to the Third Starry Sky Empire. The Chaos Axe in his hands slammed out rapidly. The first of the Chaos 9 axes, Hell Devour, caused the space around him to turn into hell. Gongsun Ao had to fight against Longao while dodging the space cracks. After all, Gongsun Ao knew that even if he was a peak Starry Sky immortal, once he was devoured by the space cracks, there was only one way out for him: death. Retreating continuously, his face turned paler by the second. Ever since he became the Emperor of the Third Starry Sky Empire and broke through to the peak Starry Sky immortal level, he had never encountered such a situation. Even if he met someone of the same level, he had never been in such a sorry state, let alone a Starry Sky immortal. Until now, Gongsun Ao still could not believe that this was real. Goodbye, Gongsun Ao. Longao held the Chaos Axe tightly with both hands. He had used all his strength in this attack, and it was also his most powerful attack. Now that Gongsun Ao was severely injured, there was no way he could resist this attack. Despair. Gongsun Ao knew the result and seemed to have given up on resisting. Since things had come to this, as long as Longao killed him and left, he would be thankful. However, Gongsun Ao was afraid that after Longao killed him, Longao would not be willing to leave and would start a massacre in the empire. If that happened, he would not be able to rest in peace. However, the outcome was no longer something he could control. Be it his own death or the empire's heavy losses, the only hope left was the great ancestor. Gongsun Ao pinned his last hope on the great ancestor because only the great ancestor could avenge them. Longao, you are too presumptuous. Just as Longao was about to kill Gongsun Ao, a furious roar came from afar. The one who came was none other than Gongsun He, the great ancestor of the Third Cosmic Empire. Ever since he left, Gongsun He had a bad premonition. He knew Longao very well. What others did not dare to do, Longao did not hesitate. Because of this, Gongsun He ignored the advice of others and rushed back. However, he was still one step too late. You dare. Seeing that Longao did not answer him and did not stop, Gongsun He became anxious. The Third Cosmic Empire only had one peak Starry Sky immortal. If Gongsun Ao died, it would be a great loss to the empire. Why wouldn't I dare? Hearing Longao's words, Gongsun He was furious. With his speed, he could arrive in seconds. Under normal circumstances, a peak starry sky immortal would definitely be able to save him. However, the person he met was Longao, a monstrous figure. Chapter 2591. Stop! Gongsun's son roared. Gongsun, he never thought that Longao would actually dare to come here, and even dare to kill Gongsun Ao in front of him. Provocation. A blatant provocation. If it were anyone else, they wouldn't have dared to do so. No matter what, he was a half-step Star Sky ruler. Apart from Star Sky rulers, he was invincible. Provoking him was suicidal. Seeing Longao defeat Gongsun Ao, Gongsun, he was very curious. He didn't know how Longao could defeat Gongsun Ao. Gongsun Ao was a peak Star Sky immortal, while Longao was only a Star Sky immortal. The difference was huge. How did Longao do it? He couldn't figure it out. He really couldn't figure it out. He sneered. Longao, of course, knew that Gongsun he was very fast. If he had been a little slower, Gongsun he would have arrived. Since things had come to this, if he didn't succeed, he would despise himself. He could only succeed, not fail. The primal chaos axe in his hand smashed down without hesitation. Without using the primal chaos 9 axes, Longao relied on pure strength. If it had been the previous battle, this attack alone wouldn't have been able to kill Gongsun Ao. However, the situation was completely different now. Crack! Gongsun Ao didn't even have time to scream before he was smashed to death. His body fell, and his primordial spirit was released. Longao sneered. He knew better than anyone what a peak Star Sky immortal's primordial spirit meant. Grabbing Gongsun Ao's primordial spirit, Longao turned around and instantly returned to the primal chaos palace. The next second, Gongsun he had arrived, but it was too late. Gongsun Ao had been smashed to death by Longao, and his primordial spirit was under Longao's control. Gongsun Ao was killed right under his nose. For him, it was a great humiliation. Longao, I'm going to tear you to shreds. Anger, extreme anger. Endless anger turned into billowing murderous aura that directly covered the surrounding space. One could imagine the anger of a half-step Starry Sky ruler. But even so, Gongsun he couldn't lock onto Longao's position. If they could lock onto him, the 3 pinnacle races wouldn't have teamed up. After fuming for 3 days and 3 nights, Gongsun he chose to give up in the end. He knew very well that even if he continued, he would end up with nothing. Losing a pinnacle universe undying, the originally 3rd universe empire would probably drop to the 9th universe empire. If it weren't for him, Gongsun he was almost certain that the empire wouldn't even be able to enter the 9 Great Starry Sky Empire, let alone drop to the 9th Starry Sky Empire. He really couldn't afford to lose them. It was precisely because of this that Gongsun he was still unable to accept reality. Within the Primal Chaos Palace, Longao was pleasantly surprised. Although killing Gongsun Ao had been a little dangerous, he had succeeded. As for Gongsun he's anger, Longao didn't care at all and chose to ignore it. Ever since the previous incident, he and Gongsun he had become irreconcilable enemies. Therefore, no matter how angry Gongsun he was, the result would be the same. As for Gongsun Ao's primordial spirit, Longao didn't plan to refine it into a soul slave. The reason was simple. Even if he could refine Gongsun Ao's primordial spirit into primal chaos, which would be of great help to him, it wouldn't be as good as breaking through to the pinnacle universe undying realm. Devour. The moment Longao killed Gongsun Ao, he had already thought of how to deal with Gongsun Ao's primordial spirit. He needed too much energy to break through from the pinnacle universe undying realm, and it needed very pure energy. Hence, a pinnacle universe undying primordial spirit was undoubtedly the most suitable. There was no hesitation. Longao didn't even leave the primal chaos palace and started devouring Gongsun Ao's primordial spirit. He had to admit that as a pinnacle universe undying, Gongsun Ao's primordial spirit was very powerful. Even Longao couldn't control it after devouring it. However, he still managed to suppress Gongsun Ao's primordial spirit in the end. It was still unknown whether devouring primordial spirits would allow him to break through smoothly, because even Longao didn't have full confidence. Sitting quietly in the primal chaos palace, Longao began to refine it slowly after devouring it. The refinement had to be slow. Otherwise, even if he could fuse it in the end, there would be repercussions. Sigh. He sighed deeply. Normally, it wouldn't be a problem for him to refine it for tens of thousands of years, let alone a few days. However, the current situation was a little different. Time was too important for him. If he continued refining it at this speed, Longao estimated that it would take him at least 10 years, or even longer. Most importantly, Gongsun Ao's primordial spirit was filled with hatred towards him. It wouldn't be possible to erase this hatred in a short time. What should he do? He couldn't afford to waste any more time. Longao wasn't willing to give up at this time, because with the intervention of the godly mathematician and the pinnacle massacre race, Longao's desire for strength had reached the extreme. He couldn't wait to break through the pinnacle universe undying realm. Just as Longao was at his wit's end and didn't know what to do, the situation suddenly changed. The primal chaos 9-colored lotus that Longao had fused with released 9 different colored light. Red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, purple, black, and white lights instantly enveloped Longao's primordial spirit. Before Longao could react, the 9 different colored lights completely erased the hatred in the primordial spirit and began to help Longao refine Gongsun Ao's primordial spirit. Sensing the situation in his body, Longao was pleasantly surprised. He never thought that the primal chaos 9-colored lotus would suddenly help him refine his primordial spirit. It would take a long time to erase the hatred in the primordial spirit, but with the help of the primal chaos 9-colored lotus, the time was shortened countless times. It was done in just a few seconds. The primal chaos 9-colored lotus refined the primordial spirit very quickly. It was a headache for Longao, but it was nothing for the primal chaos 9-colored lotus. In just a few minutes, the primal chaos 9-colored lotus refined the primordial spirit completely. He thought that after devouring and refining the primordial spirit, he would be able to successfully break through the starry sky immortal realm and reach the pinnacle universe undying realm. But what was the result? The whole primordial spirit had been refined and Longao had completely fused with it, but his cultivation base still hadn't broken through. He was extremely depressed. If he had known this, he would have refined the primordial spirit into a starry sky soul slave. Chapter 2592. He felt helpless. Letting out a deep sigh, Longao could be considered to be extremely depressed. He couldn't even break through after devouring a peak starry sky immortal primordial spirit. It was hard to imagine how much energy he would need to devour to break through. One peak starry sky immortal primordial spirit wasn't enough. After confirming that Gongsun he had left, Longao left the primal chaos palace. The news of Longao killing Gongsun Ao quickly spread throughout the entire vast starry sky. Everyone who received the news turned pale with fright. Was this true? Many didn't believe it. However, soon, news spread from the Third Starry Sky Empire that Gongsun Ao had indeed died. Unbelievable! Such a thing had never happened in the universe for countless years. Killing a peak starry sky immortal wasn't like destroying a cabbage. It was something that could be done casually. With Gongsun Ao's death, even though the Third Starry Sky Empire still had Gongsun He, they weren't as strong as before. After all, a peak starry sky immortal was something that even the 9 starry sky empires couldn't afford to lose. In the vast universe, the 6 peak races stood in great numbers. Among the peak humans, the 9 starry sky empires were the strongest. As soon as Gongsun Ao died, Bai Jing and the others gathered in the 3rd starry sky empire. They were Bai Jing from the 1st starry sky empire, Zhuge Ming from the 2nd starry sky empire, Xiaofeng from the 4th starry sky empire, Zhou Bolai from the 5th starry sky empire, Lu Mu from the 6th starry sky empire, Kong Xiao from the 7th starry sky empire, Fang Buping from the 8th starry sky empire, and Wei Bujing from the 9th starry sky empire. Other than the 8 peak half-step starry sky rulers, there was also Zhou Dian from the massacre race and Yu Bubi from the dragon race. A total of 10 half-step starry sky rulers. The 3rd starry sky empire. Inside the grand hall. The others weren't qualified to enter the hall, not even starry sky immortals. There were only 11 half-step starry sky rulers in the hall. Every half-step starry sky ruler had a helpless expression on their faces. However, they were overjoyed. Even though they had formed an alliance, Gongsun Ao's death was only good for them. Even if Gongsun Ao died, it wouldn't affect them at all. Killing Long Ao was more than enough if they joined forces. However, for the sake of harmony, no one was gloating. Even if they weren't afraid of Gongsun He, there was still the clairvoyant behind them. If the clairvoyant master was angered, the consequences would be unimaginable. It was still the same sentence. Even if Master God Diviner couldn't kill them, he could still crush them, or even send them into the cycle of reincarnation. No one wanted to see that happen. Brother Gongsun, my condolences. How could Gongsun He not know what everyone was thinking? However, under such circumstances, it was not suitable for him to get angry because Gongsun He knew very well that it would not do him any good if he fell out with them now. Everyone, if Long Ao can kill Gongsun Ao today, he can kill your people tomorrow. Therefore, we must kill him as soon as possible to save ourselves some trouble. He felt very unbalanced in his heart. Gongsun He couldn't wait for Long Ao to wipe out the other starry sky empires, including the Pinnacle Dragon Clan and the Pinnacle Massacre Clan's Pinnacle Universe Immortals. Only then would his empire have a chance to rise again. No matter what, creating a Pinnacle Universe Undying wasn't an easy task. Otherwise, other than the First and Second Universe Empires, the other 7 empires only had 1 Pinnacle Universe Undying each. He couldn't express his bitterness. Gongsun He knew why Long Ao chose him and his empire. It was all for revenge. Long Ao almost died in his hands. Everyone was very clear about what Gongsun He was thinking. They all had their own ulterior motive. It was just that they didn't point it out. Everyone, not long ago, Long Ao came to our first universe empire. If it wasn't for the 3 space eagles, Bai Hua would have died. Bai Jing was still scared. Luckily, the 3 space eagles arrived in time. Otherwise, not just the 3rd universe empire, even the 1st universe empire would have lost a Pinnacle Universe Undying. Again, a Pinnacle Universe Undying was something the 9 great universe empires couldn't afford to lose. Gradually, everyone's expression became serious because they all knew that Long Ao was only a Pinnacle Universe Undying, yet he could kill a Pinnacle Universe Undying. In time, even they might not be able to suppress Long Ao. If that was the case, then things would be really troublesome. No matter what kind of ulterior motives everyone had in their hearts, things had already come to this. They all had a common goal, and that was to kill Long Ao. Things had already come to this. Even without the order of the divine mathematician, it was believed that everyone would not hesitate to kill Long Ao. Long Ao's talent and potential were too terrifying, especially now that things had reached this stage. Everyone was more and more afraid because no one knew how far Long Ao would grow in the future. Not to mention the others, just the Oracle was so afraid of Long Ao. One could imagine what kind of existence Long Ao was. However, Everyone knew that Longao possessed a heaven-defying starry sky divine tool. If they couldn't destroy this heaven-defying starry sky divine tool, then there was no doubt that even the godly mathematician couldn't locate Longao's position, let alone them. Everyone, tell me, what should we do? A total of 11 half-step starry sky rulers sat together to discuss how to deal with a starry sky undying. If this matter spread out, they would be laughed at by the whole world. However, since things had already come to this, they couldn't care less. As long as they could kill Longao smoothly, it didn't matter even if they became a joke. In the final analysis, they were still afraid of Longao. If it had been another starry sky undying, not to mention 11 starry sky rulers, even one starry sky ruler wouldn't have appeared. This was the gap between them. According to the current situation, we can only design a trap and see how to lure Longao into it. Otherwise, as long as we can't lock the surrounding space, it will be very difficult to locate Longao. If Longao hides in the space god weapon, then we won't even have a chance. Hearing Zhou Dian's words, everyone nodded in agreement. At this time, Bai Jing took over and said, "Designing a trap is very simple. The difficult part is how we can successfully lure Longao into it. Longao is not a fool. He won't be fooled so easily." Chapter 2593. This was the crux of the matter. If Longao dared to fight them head-on, any one of them could easily kill Longao. But what happened? Longao didn't fight them head-on at all. As long as he grasped the opportunity, he would be a threat to them. Everyone's expression turned solemn. Whether it was because of the oracle's order or because of them, Longao had to die. There was no doubt about it. Swoosh. A corpse flew over, giving everyone a fright. This was the third cosmic empire. Gongsun. He stood up and waved his hand. The corpse in front of him froze in midair. They were curious. Why would a corpse appear out of nowhere? Everyone's expression turned ugly. They seemed to have guessed something, but they didn't want to believe it. Humph! The corpse snorted. At this moment the corpse suddenly said, "A bunch of shameless people. Come to Yellow Wasp Ridge if you dare. I, Longao, will be waiting for you there." Ha ha ha! With a burst of laughter, the corpse stopped breathing. What did this mean? If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, no one would have believed it. 11 half-step universe rulers were gathered here, and Longao didn't hide at all. Instead, he provoked them. He was arrogant to the extreme. So what if he could kill a peak universe immortal? There was a huge difference in strength between a peak universe immortal and a half-step universe ruler. They weren't on the same level. "Everyone, what do you think of this?" Zhuge Ming thought for a moment and said, "Longao is obviously setting a trap for us. If we go rashly, I'm afraid." Zhuge Ming didn't continue to speak, but the meaning of his words was very clear. He was afraid that Longao would play dirty tricks. The scene of Longao killing Gongsun Ao was still vivid in their minds. Something that should have been impossible had happened. If they were unlucky and fell into Longao's trap, they wouldn't even have the chance to regret it. If Zhuge Ming dared to say this in normal times, he would definitely be despised by others. But now, not a single person mocked him. This was because everyone present knew what this meant. One wrong step led to many wrong steps. Therefore, they couldn't afford to take a wrong step. Otherwise, even if they were half-step starry sky rulers, they would still fall into eternal damnation. How could he not go? He sighed helplessly. Lu Mu said very self-deprecatingly, "The 11 of us are all half-step universe dominators. We are the most powerful beings in the vast universe." No one said anything. Lu Mu continued to laugh at himself and said, "A mere Longao dares to provoke the 11 of us. This is a great humiliation. Regardless of whether you dare to go or not, I, Lu Mu, will definitely go." Lu Mu would be lying if he said he wasn't worried. However, as a half-step Starry Sky ruler, it would be too shameful for him to shrink back. He wouldn't even be able to get past him. Lu Mu did not continue to stay in the hall. He took a step forward and disappeared without a trace. Everyone looked at each other. For a moment, no one knew what to say. This was indeed a little shameful, 10,000 times more shameful than any other time. Longao had already issued a challenge. What would it mean if the 10 of them did not accept? What do you think? Bai Jing gritted her teeth and said, even if Longao set a trap, the 11 of us together have nothing to fear. Bai Jing, Zhu Gaming, and the others walked out of the hall and headed for Yellow Wasp Ridge. When one person left, the others followed. No one wanted to lose face at this time. In a short while, the 11 half-step universe dominators all walked out in a line and headed for Yellow Wasp Ridge. Gang Mu, Yi Chong, and Jin Chen, the 3-peak Starry Sky immortals, had been searching for Longao's whereabouts. They would not give up until they killed Longao. But the result? For so long, no matter how the 3 of them searched, they were unable to lock onto Longao's position. However, at this time, the 3 of them suddenly heard rumors about Longao. Longao had single-handedly killed his way into the 3rd Starry Sky Empire and single-handedly killed its emperor, Gongsun Ao, who was also a peak Starry Sky immortal. What did this mean? Although there was definitely some exaggeration, the fact that Longao killed Gongsun Ao was basically confirmed. This was an undeniable fact. The 3 of them were shocked because they knew that any one of them could easily deal with Longao. They did not expect that Longao would be able to kill Gongsun Ao in such a short time. No matter what, Gongsun Ao's strength was comparable to theirs. Didn't this mean that if Longao could kill Gongsun Ao, he could kill them too? What do you two think? Forget it. The conflict between us and Longao hasn't reached the point where one of us has to die. As long as he doesn't come looking for us, why should we look for trouble? From now on, I'll withdraw. Gang Mu was the first to withdraw. In the end, he was afraid of death because Longao's cultivation speed and strength were too terrifying. Chasing after Longao at this time was simply suicidal. Seeing that Gang Mu had chosen to withdraw, the other 2 peak Starry Sky immortals did not continue. In the face of death, everyone was afraid of death. Not even Starry Sky rulers could do this, let alone them. A wise man submits to circumstances. There was nothing to be ashamed of. Then what should we do now? If the 2 of you don't mind, from now on, the 3 of us can travel together and cultivate together. I hope that one day we can break through the peak Starry Sky immortal realm and reach the supreme half-step Starry Sky ruler realm. That's our intention. After hearing the rumors about Longao's strength, the 3 of them did not continue to pursue Longao. Instead, they began to cultivate together, hoping to break through as soon as possible. The 3 of them had chosen to withdraw. As for whether Longao would also choose to give up, that was still unknown. However, Longao did not have the time to deal with the 3 of them. He was fully focused on the 3 pinnacle races. The news of Longao killing Gongsun Ao still shocked the entire vast Starry Sky. It lingered for a long time, and there was a lot of discussion everywhere. Longao's sudden rise and counterattack made many people think highly of Longao, because what was impossible for others became possible for Longao. Chapter 2594. Hornet Ridge. As the most famous place in the Third Realm, it was impossible for the 11 half-step space rulers to not know about it. Hornet Ridge was not located in the Third Realm, but in a gap in the Third Realm. The entire Hornet Ridge was boundless. At a glance, it looked like a lion crouching there roaring, ready to devour at any time. The 11 appeared instantly. In just a few minutes, countless people around them had disappeared without a trace. Apart from the 11 of them, there was no one else around. This time, we must kill Longao, cut the weeds and pull out the roots to prevent future trouble. Although the 11 of them made a solemn vow, they did not have the slightest confidence in their hearts. Longao's sky-defying space artifact was too powerful. If Longao insisted on hiding in the artifact, there was nothing they could do. Killing Longao depended on luck. They entered in a single file. Since they were already here, the 11 of them did not flinch. The biggest reason why Hornet Ridge was famous in the Third Cosmic Empire was because of a type of space spirit beast. This type of space spirit beast was called Hornet. It did not move alone and lived in group. Individually, the yellow wasps were too weak. However, if they attacked in groups, even a star sky immortal wouldn't dare to provoke the yellow wasps casually. In the entire vast universe, only Hornet Ridge had this type of space spirit beast. Therefore, it was famous in the Third Cosmic Empire. Of course, the 11 of them were not afraid of the Hornet race, but they did not want to provoke them because there were too many of them. Unless they destroyed the entire Hornet Ridge, they would not be able to eliminate them. Why did Longao choose Hornet Ridge? The reason was simple. Hornet Ridge was the symbol of the Third Cosmic Empire. Even if others wanted to destroy it, Gongsun he would not be willing. The biggest reason was that no matter who entered Hornet Ridge, they would not be able to use their primordial spirit to cover the entire ridge. For Longao, this was a huge advantage. How could the 11 of them not know this? If we destroy Hornet Ridge completely, Longao will have nowhere to hide. If it was before, Gongsun he would not have agreed. But now, the situation was completely different. After Longao killed Gongsun he was furious to the extreme. As long as he could kill Longao, sacrificing Yellow Wasp Ridge was nothing. And the result? Gongsun he smiled helplessly and said, "Everyone, the situation in Wasp Ridge is different from other planes." As if they could understand the meaning behind Longao's words, the others finally understood why Longao had chosen this place. In other words, the Yellow Wasp Ridge was different from other planes. It could not be destroyed at will. Even a half-step Starry Sky ruler could not do so, let alone other Starry Sky cultivators. Forget it. Since that's the case, let's split up. No one objected. In any case, since their primordial spirits could not cover the entire Yellow Wasp Ridge, they could only choose to move separately. If they moved together, who knew how long it would take? The 11 of them chose different directions and left quickly. In just a short while, the 11 of them had disappeared without a trace. Was Longao at Yellow Wasp Ridge? Longao was not at Yellow Wasp Ridge at all. Instead, he had seen the 11 of them enter Yellow Wasp Ridge with his own eyes. As for whether he could successfully kill the 11 of them this time, it would depend on luck. It took Longao 10 days to set up several super formations in Yellow Wasp Ridge, using the Yellow Wasp tribe as the foundation. Without the slightest hesitation. It took less than an hour for the 11 of them to enter Yellow Wasp Ridge, but Longao had already activated all the formations. The 11 of them, who were locking on to Longao's position, suddenly felt a surge of aura around them. As half-step Starry Sky rulers, the 11 of them knew very well what the surge of aura around them meant. Formations. They had almost forgotten that Longao was also a powerful formation master. Under normal circumstances, it was basically impossible for a Starry Sky cultivator to develop on both the path of formations and the path of martial art. The 11 of them did not put Longao's formations in their eyes at all, because with Longao's current level of formations, it was almost impossible for him to kill a peak Starry Sky immortal, but it was almost impossible for him to deal with the 11 of them. As soon as an expert made a move, one would know whether or not he was a master. Soon, the 11 of them sensed at the same time that the formations in Yellow Wasp Ridge were not ordinary. Not daring to be the slightest bit careless, the 11 of them began to gather as quickly as possible. This way, no matter what danger they encountered, they could easily resist it. Gongsun, he sneered and said mockingly, "You want to rely on formations to deal with us? Dream on." Not only Gongsun he, but even the others could not understand. Longao was not a fool. He clearly knew that they could not use formations to kill them, so why did he insist on doing so? Could it be that Longao had nothing better to do? Soon, the 11 of them understood Longao's true intentions. Although they did not know how Longao mobilized the wasp race, the fact was right in front of them. Even if they were not afraid of the wasp race, they were still a problem. Left with no choice, the 11 of them could only attack the wasp race. Longao did not enter Yellow Wasp Ridge. Instead, he headed towards the Fourth Cosmic Empire at his fastest speed. He knew that in this situation, he had to buy as much time as he could. In the vast universe there were 6 pinnacle races. Among them, the human race had 9 great cosmic empires. Apart from the first empire, which had 3 or 4 peak starry sky immortals, and the second empire, which had 3 peak starry sky immortals, the rest of the empires, from the 3rd to the 9th, only had 1 peak starry sky immortal. Now that Gongsun Ao of the 3rd Cosmic Empire had fallen, Longao's next goal was to eliminate all the peak starry sky immortals from the 4th to the 9th as quickly as possible. This was Longao's true goal. Even if he lured the 11 of them to Yellow Wasp Ridge, with his current strength, he could not kill 11 half-step starry sky dominators. Instead of wasting time, it was better to use it in a way that was beneficial to him. Peak starry sky immortals were existences that the 9 great cosmic empires could not afford to lose. If he could kill as many as he could, it would be a good thing. Even if the 11 of them were killed, they would never have imagined that Longao's move to lure the tiger away from the mountain would be so vicious. His true target was not the 11 of them, but the peak starry sky immortals of the other cosmic empires. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.